10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Blast off. Hello, my friends, and thank you so much for choosing to spend a part of your Thursday, February 29th with me, 2024. Happy leap year, everyone. It is 7 p.m. on the East Coast, and do you know where your children are? I think this is going to be an intimate crowd tonight. An intimate crowd because a lot of people don't want to talk about this because they think it's going to be political, but I'm taking all the politics out of it. I'm taking all the politics out of this FANI Willis case because no matter which side of the political aisle you are on, this should infuriate you. I am shocked that this topic did not make it into Saturday Night Live last weekend when it was finally a new show, because I am all for Keenan playing Terrence Bradley. I mean, this is comedic gold, my friends, and I hope you're here for it because I am here for it. I have been riveted to this hearing. A lot of it happened when I was on vacation, and I was even watching it on my phone on vacation when I was sitting by the pool, because this is gold, you guys. And if you haven't been following it, you're missing out because it's got everything. It's got everything. It's got righteous indignation. It's got a backwards dress. It's got Aruba, Bahamas, Belize, Napa Valley. It's got a little a cash hoard thrown in there. We've got a giant magnifying glass, some Grey Goose. We've got a lot of brow mopping with giant rags. We've got at least 4 lawyers who are on the stand who would rather be anywhere else. There is nothing worse than trying to question a lawyer on the stand. And just complete and total obfuscation. It is riveting. It's like, it's got the reality show elements to it. It's got a salacious affair. It's got potential conflict of interest. It's got potential DA corruption in it. And if you've been following me, you know that we've been following DA corruption in Norfolk County, Massachusetts, in the Karen Reed case. We've also looked at corruption in the DA's office in Suffolk County, New York. So this is something that it's just another example of something that we've already been covering. And I really feel like I needed to get away from the Adam Montgomerys of it all, and the Shonda Vander Arks of it all, and the corruption in Canton, and the divisiveness of Karen Reed, and all of that for at least one night, so we could talk about something a little bit lighter and a little bit, perhaps, more comedic. It is. Somebody said it's pure drama. I don't know. I see it as pure comedy. I know it's funny. It's funny, says Lady Prudence. And if you saw my thumbnail, you know that I think in song lyrics, and I think Cat Toes already got this one, but all I could think of while I was watching this was a song, lyrics to a song. Take a load off Fanny. Take a load for free. Take a load off Fanny, because you put the load right on me. Anybody know? Anybody know what that song is and who wrote it? Take a load off Fanny. She calls herself Fanny. I know Green Eyed Southern Girl thinks in song lyrics too. She does. She does. All right. It is not Shakespeare. It is not. But this is rather Shakespearean. Yes, I would say it is Shakespearean, this whole debacle that we're watching unfold on national and probably international television. Any of my international viewers here? Yes, that is the band. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Robbie Robertson wrote that song. I don't know who got it first. I think Cat Toes got it in the beginning. The first person, right? Big Dig. It is called The Wait. Very good, very good. Take a load off Fanny. And the band sang it. A lot of people have covered it, including when I was in Cancun on one of my recent trips. Mavis Staples came on stage and sang it. And now with my early onset something, I can't recall if it was during the Dave Matthews shows or if it was during the Bob Weir Dead Ahead shows, but somebody came on stage and sang it, and The Wait, and it was awesome. And actually, they might have played The Wait during both. So I don't know. I forget for now. However, it is a song that has been part of my soundtrack of my life for quite some time, probably since I was a kid. So here we go. For those of you who have been following the FANI Willis or the FANI Willis hearings, can you just put a F in the chat so I know how many people are following it? But I just want to give you a basic overview, because if you haven't been following it, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. Fani Willis is the district attorney of Fulton County, Georgia, which encompasses most of Atlanta. And who is Fani Willis? Well, I'll tell you a little bit about Fani Willis. Fani Willis was born in Inglewood, California. She moved to Washington, D.C. when she was in first grade. She is a 1993 graduate of Howard University, where she graduated cum laude. And she's a 1996 graduate of Emory University School of Law in Atlanta. For many years, 16 years, she worked in the DA's office in Fulton County as a prosecutor. In 2018, she went into private practice for a little while. She ran for judge in Fulton County Superior Court and lost. You're going to hear her talk about, or maybe we won't even get to that part of it because there's so much juicy testimony. I don't even know what to show and what not to show. She apparently, during that judicial race, spent $50,000 of her own money and lost. After that, she eventually became the chief municipal judge for South Fulton, Georgia in 2019. And in 2020, she talks about how she didn't want to really leave that job as Superior Court judge, or chief municipal judge, because she didn't want to risk it by perhaps not winning the election for Fulton County DA. She was elected in 2020 and was sworn into office in 2021. Let's keep the chat classy, shall we? That's what we try and do here. So regardless of your personal feelings of any of these players, we're going to try and keep it classy and as non-political as we possibly can, and just talk about the comedy of it all and the ramifications of it all. And no matter which side of the political aisle you are on, this should infuriate you. If you think that President Trump interfered in the 2020 election in Georgia, then you should be infuriated that this person was allowed to handle this investigation. If you do not think that he interfered with the Georgia election, then you should be infuriated that this person was tasked with handling this investigation. So either way, no matter which side of the political aisle you're on, this should infuriate you. So she's elected in 2020 to be the Fulton County District Attorney. And right away, she launches a criminal investigation into alleged efforts by then President Donald Trump and his allies to overturn the 2020 election victory of Joe Biden in Georgia. In November of 2021, she hires a man by the name of Nathan Wade to be a special prosecutor in this case. And Nathan Wade may or may not have been her lover at the time that she hired him to be the special prosecutor of this case in November 2021. So not only is former President Trump, a defendant in this case in Georgia, but there are something like 18 other co-defendants. And one of the co-defendants, Michael Roman, has brought this motion before the court in Georgia I will explain it to you like you're 5. I will. Don't worry. Don't worry, PF. I don't even know what we're discussing. Fill me in, explain it to me like I'm 5. Okay, I will. And people say that. That's why they like my channel, because I dumb it down, and I will. So she hires her may not be lover, Nathan Wade, in November of 2021 to be the special prosecutor in this case, and hires him for something like $250 an hour, which she says is very, very low because the Attorney General's special prosecutors get $1,000 an hour. So she doesn't think that is that big of a deal. But the day after she hires him on November 1st of 2021. On November 2nd of 2021, Nathan Wade's wife files for divorce. Her name is Jocelyn. She files for divorce, and she's the one who kind of blew this whole thing up because she's going through his Amex bills and his financials, and she finds receipts for Norwegian cruises and for a hotel in Aruba and for a hotel in Napa. And all of these were trips that he took with FANI Willis, and she's going to admit all of that. What is at issue here is whether or not their romantic relationship, because they do admit that they have had a romantic relationship, but they are saying that that relationship did not start until something like 2023. Quite frankly, I don't care when it started. It's inappropriate either way. But for purposes of this motion, if their romantic relationship started before he was hired November 1st of 2021, this is clearly a conflict of interest because you're just not supposed to hire your boyfriend to be the special prosecutor in a case as important as this one, or really, quite frankly, in any case. There are text messages, there are cell phone forensics, there are all kinds of things that are going to be brought out during the course of this hearing that started on February 15th. And tomorrow they're going to wrap up with their closing arguments. But at some points during this hearing, while I was watching the testimony, I felt like I was watching a moot court competition because there's one attorney who seemingly is not really quite sure how to ask questions or how to ask them properly or how to get the evidence in. And then the judge is really trying to help her out. And it becomes a little bit hard to watch as an attorney. And if you know, you know. If you've watching it, if you've been watching it, you've been watching it. Apparently, she had a lot of cash in her house, and all of these trips that they went on together, she would repay him in cash, and on and on and on. And it's been riveting. So if we're going to start at the beginning of this hearing, we can start with the testimony of, let me just show you a quick clip and just like relax on the news clips that I'm going to show you where they're from, because some of them just had better synopses than others. Some of them are local stations, some of them are channels that you might not like. And let's just take a step back on that and just kind of relax on that, because we're just trying to see the overview of it all. So this is Brett Baer explaining to us and dumbing it down for us about what this exactly is about. If we can find it here. Just let me know that you can hear this. Wait, why would there be no sound? Hang on a second. That's kind of weird. Wait 1 second. Mm-hmm. I can hear it. Why can't you hear it? Let's try again. Can you hear it now? No, you can't hear it. I don't know why, because that's the New York Post. Maybe that's why, because it's off the Post. All right. Well, I'm just going to suffice to say that now the DA who is prosecuting Trump is now being forced to answer questions about her conduct. And basically, that's the little bit that that clip talks about. So let's see if we can get a little bit better. This better work, because otherwise I don't know what's going on with my sound here. Hang on for 1 second. So there's going to be some testimony. So Nathan Wade is going to be one of the first people to. You hear me on 2 devices, so you could hear it. All right. Tell me if you can hear this. Hang on a second. Let's do another test. Testing, testing. Ready?
She paid you cash to reimburse you for all of that.
She did.
And she paid you cash for both of your portions or just hers?
Both.
Okay, so that trip, Belize, just Belize, she paid you for everything on Belize.
The entire trip.
Okay. So the food, tattoo parlor, all that stuff, she paid.
Okay. So the woman that you are going to hear questioning him is Ashley Merchant. She's the attorney for Michael Roman. And I had some questions about this, about why she was leading all the questioning and why she's the lead attorney on this. And the reason for that is that it's her motion. So while she seems to be maybe one of the less experienced attorneys, she is leading this because it's her motion. So she's going to start questioning him about trips that were taken with the district attorney, FANI WILLIS. And one of the key components here is whether or not she financially benefited by hiring him to be the special prosecutor, because it's going to come out that she paid him over $654,000 in fees. So the allegation here is that she financially benefited from this because he took her on these lavish vacations. So he's going to try to say that she paid him back in cash, and she's going to say that she paid him back in cash. So there was really no financial benefit because she paid him back. So let's just take a little bit of a listen to her slick lover, Nathan Wade's testimony, which goes all the way back to February 15th, which was the first day of testimony on this trial. Oh, and thank you for asking people to tip me. And that's very, very kind, Cheryl. Yeah, if you know, here's the thing. YouTube takes 30% of super chats, which is a little bit ridiculous, but they just do. Venmo takes nothing. So listen, I'm never going to beg you for money, but hey, if you want to, you want to. What can I say? All right, so here we go. Here's the lava.
And you're saying that she paid you cash to reimburse you for all of that?
She did.
And she paid you cash for both of your portions or just hers?
Both.
Okay, so that trip, Belize, just Belize, she paid you for everything on Belize?
The entire trip.
Okay. So the food, tattoo parlor, all that stuff, she paid for?
I'm sorry, did you the question?
There was no tattoo parlor in Belize.
I love how she tried to squeak that in. The tattoo parlor. Wait, there's a tattoo parlor in Belize? You're going to hear later that FANI WILLIS doesn't know what continent Belize is in. And yet this is the Fulton County District Attorney, folks. Here we go. He's very well dressed, by the way, I have to say. I do like his sartorial splendor. He's not up there with John Ray, the attorney from the Long Island serial killer case who represents Shannon Gilbert, but he's pretty good.
Charges, there's a tattoo parlor on the charges. I'm not getting into what it was for. I'm just asking if everything that's on that card related to Belize, she paid you back for.
She paid for, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let's talk about California in May 2023. you all went to California together.
Yes.
And you booked plane tickets.
Yes.
And her name was on those plane tickets.
They were.
And so I know you said that you were worried about security and things like that, but that wasn't her name. When she traveled, she had to use her name.
Oh, so the plane tickets? Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you paid for those plane tickets and you paid for a hotel.
So, again, the card, yes.
You used your credit card, and I'm not asking about after what happened. I'm asking, did you use your credit card to book your flight and hotel to California?
I did.
And there's a lot of Ubers on there as well for California. Did you pay for those Ubers as well?
Yes.
Did
We were in Napa.
And you're saying that Miss Willis, are you saying that Miss Willis paid you back for that?
Excellent question, Pine Needle protagonist, and I'm going to answer it for you. What do two people have a sexual relationship have to do with prosecuting potential election interference? Here's why. As the district attorney of Fulton County, this was her case that she was bringing. She hired a special prosecutor to bring this case. And if she's hiring a guy who's her boyfriend to be the special prosecutor who she's having a sexual relationship, that absolutely is a conflict of interest. And we've been over this many, many times on this channel. If you're new here, welcome. But not only when you take the bar exam do you have to take a 2-day bar exam, but you also have to take a separate ethics test. And part of the ethics that they drill into you during law school is avoiding the appearance of impropriety. And if she had a sexual relationship with him before she hired him to be the special prosecutor and paid him over $642,000 in fees, that is absolutely 100% slam dunk, a conflict of interest, impropriety, and prosecutorial just about everything that you can imagine is wrong with that. That's the problem here.
Yes.
Did she pay for the entire trip or did she pay for her half of the trip?
The Napa trip, she paid for the excursions. So the expenses sort of balanced out. I mean, there was never, let me be clear, there was never a time when I would say, hey, I bought dinner. Dinner cost $25. You need to give me $25.
Okay.
If you've ever spent any time with Miss Willis, you understand that she's a very independent, proud woman.
I'd object. Come on.
Yeah. She also says that he's of the opinion that no woman can do anything for him but make her a sandwich. Or make him a sandwich. Marie says, a SCOTUS can take lavish vacations on the dime from people who have an interest in their rulings, but a DA who doesn't make rulings can go on vacations with a partner. Imagine that. Well, her partner's not supposed to be hired as the special prosecutor. I think that's the point that I'm trying to make here. So yeah.
So she's going to
overruled, Mr. Wade.
So she's going to insist that she carries her own weight, and it actually was a point of contention between the two of us. She is going to pay her own way.
So let me re-ask the question to make sure that you answer it. A California trip that you paid for, saying that she did not pay you back for cash. Instead, she paid for excursions, and you believe that was roughly half.
Now, she gave me some cash, yes.
She
but
gave you
what I'm
some.
saying is everything that we did when we got into Napa, she paid for.
The trip that
He's got 3 bottles of water in front of him. That's how much he's already sweating. And you can see the longer the questioning goes on, the more his brow starts to sweat. Never let him see his sweat. Who said that?
she booked on her credit card in Miami, did you pay her cash back for your half of that?
No.
So you never paid her back for the ticket she bought for you?
No. I would say I did pay her back because there were times when I would pay for dinner.
Okay.
She would pay for dinner. It would balance out. But in a relationship, ma'am, you don't, particularly men, we don't go asking back for.
Red Tail, the proof is coming. Wait, you gotta wait. You gotta wait until the end. The proof is coming. Don't worry. We've got it. We've got the receipts.
Anything. So you're not keeping a ledger of things that you pay for versus the thing that she's paid for, which is why I said that it was a point of contention because she was very emphatic and adamant about this independent, strong woman thing. So she demanded that she pay her own way.
But she's the district attorney of Fulton County, and she has to file financial disclosures disclosing any gifts with anybody that she does business with in Fulton County, correct?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yes, that's true. They have to fill out, any elected official has to fill out a financial disclosure form, and they have to list any gifts that they've received from anybody over $100. She did not do that in this case.
Let's talk about Tennessee. You booked a cabin in August 2023 and paid for a cabin in Tennessee. That's when you paid for it. I don't know when the trip was. Can you tell us about that?
August of 2023.
You booked a trip for $1,481.54.
Are you asking me, did I take that trip with Miss Willis, or are you asking?
Notice when people repeat the question, and this happens a lot in a lot of testimony, in a lot of cases that we watch, when people repeat the question, they're often either looking for an answer or delaying for time to answer. He does that a lot.
First, I was just asking you to acknowledge that that is correct from the records, that you paid for a cabin in Tennessee. Do you recall, and hopefully you can do it from your memory, do you recall paying for a cabin 6 months ago, $1,400.81 in Tennessee?
Where are we now? What page is that?
I'm just asking from your memory. Do you remember paying for a cabin in August?
Not if he's going to be asked about a particular transaction.
You can answer whether he remembers or not.
Mr. Wade, I'm not asking you to go through 1,000 pages of records. I'm asking if you remember paying for a cabin 6 months ago in Tennessee.
No.
Do you remember booking a cabin?
I booked lots of cabins.
Oh, lots of cabins. It was only 6 months ago, sir.
Did you go to a cabin with Miss Willis ever?
Ever?
Ever.
Lot of delay here. So do I. I know someone who answers a question with a question all the time.
No.
You've never gone to a cabin with Miss Willis?
No.
Have you ever gone to Tennessee with Miss Willis?
Yes.
Okay. When was that?
That was around 2022,
Here's Corky.
early 2022.
Early 2022? Okay.
It was a day trip.
Okay. So you didn't spend a night?
So it was a day trip.
Okay.
We would drive there, have lunch, drive back.
To Nashville
The
for
reason
lunch.
we would do that is because the attention, she couldn't get any peace of mind going locally. So we'd get in my car and drive to someplace off the beaten path and have lunch and drive back.
Is that when you went?
Yeah, or because you were trying to hide your relationship. Maybe that's why you went off the beaten path and drove to Nashville for lunch and back. Come on.
Do you fainting goat with her? I think it's in Jasper, Georgia.
No, that's in Georgia. I don't recall going to Fanning Goat with her.
So the Tennessee day trips were only Tennessee.
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever do these day trips in Georgia?
Did we drive anywhere in Georgia?
Yeah, you were talking about day trips going out, and I'm talking about outside of the metro area. Day trips that you were just talking about. These trips you were talking about, the ones that I'm only asking about the ones you were just talking about. Are all of those in Tennessee?
No, we drove to Alabama before.
Okay.
Back.
You drove to Alabama?
Mhm.
Did you go anywhere in Georgia?
I agree, Nancy. Nancy said, I know that none of this is funny, but this is pure entertainment. I know. And like I said at the beginning, if you're just tuning in, sometimes we need to cover something a little lighter than Adam Montgomery or or all of the other horrible things that have happened to children that we've been covering lately. And this is just, it's comedy gold. At SNL, they better be in the writer's room making a skit right now about this, because this is gold. I agree, Nancy.
North Georgia.
I'm going to object. If she wants to direct his attention in some way to a time frame or a location, then I think it might be easier for the witness to accurately
Ms.
answer.
Merchant, I think if you don't have the specific details yourself, we need to start getting into specifics or more maybe broadly phrased questions. We can't just be exploring around indefinitely.
Is it fair to say that you've taken so many trips with her you don't even really remember all the places you've gone?
So many trips.
You're having trouble remembering going if you went to North Georgia or not.
Were you asking me about specific places? And I want to be candid in my responses. So I have to jog my memory, because these are places that I have frequented, but not with her. So I want to make certain that if there was ever a time that she accompanied me, that I was candid in that response.
Here's the thing. If they allege that their relationship just started in 2023, it's less than a year ago. How is it so hard to jog his memory about the trips they've taken together in the past year or less than a year?
Aruba, October 2022. And I've got business record certificate for these, Judge. It might be a little faster. But did you...
Okay, quick correction. They say they started dating in April of 2022. Sorry, April 2022. It wasn't 2023. April of 2022. And he was hired to be the special prosecutor by her November 1 of 2021. So 5 months after she hires him to be the special prosecutor is when they say they started dating.
Did you take a trip with her to Aruba in 2022?
Yes, ma'am. So that Aruba trip there was a package deal there. My mother had recently retired, and I decided to take my mother on a cruise.
Okay.
Again, when people go on with a lot of detail and they start volunteering a lot of information, and they try and just add so much detail to it so you think that they're not lying, oftentimes they're lying because they're trying to add so much detail to it. So just listen to how much he's not asked this question, but he's going to elaborate.
And the second leg after the cruise concluded, DA Willis and I went to Aruba. So that was all one trip, if you will.
Okay. So my question was, did you go with DA Willis to Aruba in 2022?
I did.
Thank you. And you paid for that trip using your business credit card, correct?
I did.
Okay. And you paid for a cruise as well, correct?
That's the cruise I was referencing with DA Willis, my mother, and myself.
Okay. And because there's two cruises, so let's just talk about the first one.
Okay.
So the first one was that's the one with your mother.
Yes.
And so you introduced DA Willis to your mother. That trip, you all took a cruise together, the three of you.
Yes.
After the cruise was done, you and DA Willis flew to Aruba together, and your mom flew home.
Yes.
And you paid for all of this with your credit card, on your business credit card.
I did.
And are you saying that Ms. Willis paid you cash back for that?
She did.
And
But let me make this distinction though, because the number that you're looking at reflects the three people on the cruise ship. There were things that my mother and I did, just the two of us, that DA Willis didn't do.
And I'm not attributing that. I did not. My math is not good, but I did not include anything with your mother on those.
You wouldn't be able to see it because it's not separated out. It just shows a charge on.
So he's going to go on to testify that he put everything on his corporate credit card, and then he would give it to his accountant at the end of the year, and his accountant would sort out what was personal, what was business, and he pretty much put everything on his corporate card. So let's see what else he's got to say about all that when he's shown some papers to look at.
UNDA Willis was $3,835.20.
But the lead prosecutor now on the stand. Let's pick it up where we left off.
Conclusions for us ones for each.
I thought 10 was taxes.
I'm sorry, 11 and 12. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Thank you. And these are business records, Judge. They have the certification, so I moved to admit them.
All right. Defense 11 and 12. Ms. Cross?
Based on Ms. Merchant's representation that they are true and accurate as to the certification that was provided to her, we have no objection.
All right. Again, seeing no other objection, they're admitted.
So the trip to Aruba alone for UNDA Willis was $3,835.26, correct? Just Aruba.
I'm looking for the amount.
Question 11 or 12.
This one is 11.
Yes, ma'am. $3,835.26.
And then the Royal Caribbean for just you and Miss Willis was $1,269.70, correct?
No, ma'am.
Your mother's got a different line item on there. I'm talking about the cruise, the actual cruise cabin.
I think you need to rephrase that as in the form of a question, Ms. Merchant.
Did you pay Royal Caribbean for your?
I'm just going to say tonight that the only off-topic comments that I will allow, since the Rangers are off tonight, is that if my Boston friends are watching, I will allow you to post the Bruins score in the chat as long as we don't get off topic. Fair? All right. You know I'm a hockey lover, so I will. I'm going to allow that for tonight.
Yours and Miss Willis's cabin, $1,269.70.
Where are we? Which page?
Oh,
We're
boy.
on the receipts. There's just a few pages of receipts on exhibit number 11.
Okay. I'm in 11.
It's going to go on and on and on like that for a lot of pages, and he's going to be examined about a lot of trips that he's not going to remember much about, except for that she paid him back in cash every single time. Let's take a look at what he's got to say about their actual relationship and when it started. Hopefully that's what this is.
Prior to this, you'd never worked at a DA's office, right?
Have I ever worked in her DA's office?
At
No,
the
ma'am.
DA's office, any DA's office.
No, ma'am.
Have you ever managed a large law firm?
This is going to go to his experience and whether or not he was qualified to even get this job of special prosecutor. You be the judge. What say you?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to the relevance of these questions.
Ms. Merchant?
He served on her transition team, and so what we're trying to prove is that there's a personal and financial relationship, and that it was improper. And so, whether or not he had experience to serve on this transition team, I think is relevant.
Right. I think I already said that we don't need the evidentiary
Okay.
hearing on that point.
I'll
So
move on.
that's sustained.
Terrence Bradley also received a contract for Fulton County, correct?
Terrence Bradley is his former buddy, his former divorce lawyer, his former partner, who was going to be the smoking gun witness of it all until he suddenly came down with a severe case of amnesia when he was on the stand the other day. And we're going to go through his testimony last because that's some interesting stuff.
Correct?
You're asking me about Terrence?
I asked if Terrence Bradley also received a contract for Fulton County.
I believe that he did.
And you were partners with him at that time, correct?
I was.
So under what you testified to
Oh,
earlier,
yeah.
you would get a third of that contract as well, correct?
I would have.
And Chris Campbell also had a contract with Fulton County.
I believe he did.
And so under what you've testified to, you would also get a third of that, correct?
I would.
They both had contracts for what are called first appearance, which is where they would appear on behalf of the district attorney to do first appearance hearings, correct?
See how everyone is financially benefiting from this. If his partner gets hired, the money goes into the firm and he gets a third of whatever his partner gets. It's taking him a long time to answer this question as well.
I believe they did.
Okay. And they also had what's called a taint contract. They both entered into them January 25th, 2021, correct?
Filter, yes, ma'am.
Taint or filter.
Yes, ma'am.
And that was for work in the anti-corruption unit?
I don't know that it was anti-corruption. I think that it was civil rights, maybe.
Okay. And Judge, the DA's or Fulton County's come and I guess brought a certificate now, so we would move to admit the contracts. I've got those. Under that certificate, I was planning on doing it under the open records officer, but I believe now they've certified it. I haven't looked at everything they've certified though, so.
I'm going to ask that the document be looked at and confirmed prior to its signing.
All right, Ms. Merchant, is there anything else? What other areas were you planning to cover on this direct other than these documents?
I'm planning on introducing all of the contracts and invoices, but I haven't had a chance to look at what Fulton County certified. So I'm planning on introducing those and then not much.
Can we do the not much? We'll do the not much and then we'll get back to the contract.
Do the not
Okay,
much.
yeah, definitely. Okay, so this taint contract, and we're not admitting these right now, but if I represent to you that they say anti-corruption unit, can you tell us what a taint attorney for an anti-corruption unit would do?
I didn't have a part in those contracts.
They were your partners at the time though, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, and so you didn't have a part in those contracts, but you got a third of the contract payment.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so the taint contracts that Bradley and Campbell, who are your law partners at the time, had for doing taint review, you got a third of those.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. He's going to go on and on like this for quite some time. Deny till you die, deny till you die. Nancy says, is there a qualification criteria to be a special prosecutor, or is it like Massachusetts where all that's required is a pulse? Excellent, excellent question. And it is up to the district attorney to hire a special prosecutor. In fact, she didn't even bid it out. She just hired him. There was no bidding out of this job. There was no interviewing going on. There was no vetting. I think he was not her first choice, she says. However, she did hire him. Maureen Francis, I didn't get to thank you, but you're always the first one in here with the super stickers, and I always appreciate you so much. And Future for becoming a new member. I think I chatted with you before the stream started. Cad Monkey FPV, thank you so much for your $10 super chat. This is the kind of story you see a documentary about 20 years after the fact when a wrongly convicted man is finally released. We're seeing it up close and personal live as it happens. Interesting stuff. Patty, thanks for becoming a new member. We have a lot of fun here, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. Todd, thank you so much for your super chat. This family, yes, we are quite a nice family here, and we try and keep it classy, so it is a lot of fun. It's like hanging out with a bunch of friends on a Thursday night. Thanks, Vintage Mama at 3, for becoming a member. Awesome. Amazing. So what we haven't talked about yet is the original OG witness to first give up their relationship, and that is a woman named Robin, who is a college friend of our friend FANI. And she testified day one as well. She was one of the first people to testify. Let's just listen to a little bit of her testimony because she kind of gives her up right away. Let's talk amongst yourselves for a minute while I try and find it in this list because let's see, where is she? It's 18 minutes. We'll watch a portion of it because it is good stuff. She's on Zoom. And let's see what she testifies to. If you haven't seen this part, hang on. Let me know that you can hear the audio.
you like me to swear her, Judge? Or?
I think we need to make sure, there we go. Deputy Scott, if we could swear in the witness. Ms. Yurdy, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
All right.
Raise your right hand, ma'am. You swear affirm to the testimony that you get a court will be the truth, but the truth will help you.
Yes.
Would you please state and spell your full name for the court?
Robin Latrice Yodi.
Thank you, Ms. Yurdy. Thank you for being here. Can you tell the judge when you first met Ms. Willis?
In college.
Okay.
So probably 90 or 91.
Okay. And have you been friends since 1990 or 91?
Yes.
When was the last time you spoke with Ms. Willis?
March of 2022.
Okay. From 1991-ish till 2022, were you what you would consider good friends with Ms. Willis?
Yes.
And did you all share personal information regularly?
Yes.
And did you even come and work with her at the DA's office?
Yes.
And when she needed a place to stay, did you let her stay at your apartment?
Yes.
It was a condo, right?
Condo, yes.
Do you remember approximately when she moved into your condo?
It was April of 2021.
Okay, great. And you know that Ms. Willis and Ms. Wade met at a conference in October of 2019?
I'm going to object to that, Your Honor, without a foundation for how this witness would know that. If Ms. Merchant can establish she has personal information of that, then certainly that's something the witness can testify to. But if it's she heard
Understood,
it from
Ms. Cross. All right, Ms. Merchant, if you could lay the foundation.
Do you have information that Ms. Willis and Mr. Wade met in October of 2019?
I'm going to renew my objection, Your Honor. Information is not source of personal information. If the question can be rephrased, then that may address my concern.
So Judge, I just want to make sure that I understand. So they've objected to me calling Willis and Wade.
It's just a matter of foundation. If you can just rephrase.
Do you have knowledge of when?
Here's where this attorney starts to show her inexperience, the way she speaks to the judge and the way she tries to explain to him why she's trying to get her evidence in. It's like, just ask the question properly. And he tries to help her a whole bunch, but it doesn't really seem to help so much because she doesn't seem to understand a lot of the time. I hate to bash other lawyers, but there were times when it was very hard to listen to and watch.
And Willis and Wade met.
I'm going to object again. Personal knowledge.
Overruled.
Thank you. Do you have personal knowledge of when Willis and Wade met?
Yes. She told me that they met at a conference. I don't know what.
Okay.
I'm going to renew my objection, Your Honor. Clearly, this is not firsthand information from this witness. It's hearsay that was.
But she said she told me.
Yes, it's statement against interest, Judge. If Ms. Willis.
Just pause.
I'm sorry.
Okay, Ms.
Yes.
Cross.
The representation of the witness, the testimony of the witness was that Ms. Willis, District Attorney Willis, had a conversation with her. There is no statement against interest. District Attorney Willis is not a party opponent in this case. The information that the witness has testified to came from Ms. Willis, and we have a hearsay objection to that.
Why wouldn't she be considered a party opponent in this context?
She is a representative of the state, Your Honor. This isn't private litigation or civil litigation. Obviously, the court's aware this is. Ms. Willis is not on trial. Ms. Willis is not a party to the litigation outside her.
Oh, she's going to say that too. I am not the one on trial here. She's going to say that too. But she kind of is. She really kind of is.
Obligation to pursue criminal charges for the state.
Ms. Merchant, I guess it's evolved into a hearsay objection.
Yes, Judge. And
It's
we
evolved
plan on
into
calling
one.
Ms. Willis to the stand. She's under subpoena, so hearsay will be cured. If there is a hearsay objection as far as that issue. But we do still think that it's a statement against interest. Ms. Willis has filed a document that states that they met at this municipal court conference. So
Your Honor, I think maybe I can streamline a little bit. State will stipulate that District Attorney Willis and Mr. Wade met in October 2019 at the judicial conference that we've been talking about. There's no reason to get it secondhand from this witness. Well, that's true.
All right, you accept the stipulation, Ms. Merchant?
yes. Am I permitted then to ask questions about that since it's now not hearsay?
She's like, the rules of evidence are a challenge. So am I allowed to do this, Judge? Am I allowed to do that, Judge? Oh boy.
If it's just to a stipulation, if it's just to that basic fact, I don't think we need a question, but if there's a follow-up that you think is admissible, go for it.
Ms. Yurdi, you have personal knowledge that Ms. Willis and Mr. Wade began their romantic relationship soon after this time that they met at the municipal court.
I'm going to object to that question. That certainly is a leading question. No foundation has been laid for how this witness would have personal knowledge of that. And until that's happened, the state objects.
Judge,
I think you can do a yes or no and then follow up with how she knows it.
thank you. Do you know if Ms. Willis and Mr. Wade started dating in October of 2019?
I don't know if it was October of 2019.
Could it possibly be November of 2019?
Could possibly.
Okay. And when we spoke, you said it was shortly after the municipal court conference, though, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you know that their relationship, their personal relationship, began shortly after this municipal court conference.
Yes.
And when I say personal, romantic. I just want to make sure we don't get in an argument over what personal and romantic is later. When I ask you personal, do you take that to mean romantic?
Yes.
Okay. And do you understand it that their relationship began in 2019 and continued until the last time you spoke with her?
Yes.
She said it,
And
2019.
you were essentially her best friend during this time, right?
Not best friend, good friend.
Good friend. Okay, close friend. And so would you frequently socialize with her?
Yes.
And you saw her at work every day?
Yes.
So you had a chance to see them interact together on a personal level?
Yes.
And so from everything that you saw, heard, witnessed, it's your understanding that they were in a romantic relationship beginning in 2019?
Yes.
And when you left the DA, I'm sorry, let me ask you, you said that Ms. Willis came to live with you in April of 2021. I'm sorry, April 1st, 2020 or 2021?
She didn't live. I never lived with her.
Okay, I'm sorry. She took over your lease in April 1st, 2020, correct?
No, 2021.
Okay, I had it both ways, so I'm glad you clarified. So when she took over your lease in April 1st, 2021, it's your understanding she moved out of the house that she was sharing with her father and started staying at the condo?
Yes.
And is it your understanding that that's because she needed to have her own space
Yes.
away from her father?
Note, April 1st of 2021 is still before the hire date of November 1st of 2021, which we're going to see some cellular forensics later, like we're looking at in the Karen Reed case, perhaps some geofence data or cellular location data that's going to have them in that condo at the same time, despite the fact that they're both going to deny it. One thing that you cannot get away from, my friends, is your cellular forensics. Not to mention your Apple Health data and all the other things that we're learning about, your Google searches. Why people think that they can outsmart these things with testimony is beyond me, but we continue to see it in a lot of cases that we're covering.
Yes.
Okay. When you left the DA's office, was it, were you fired?
No, I resigned.
You resigned, okay. Just one moment, Judge.
Fanny's going to try and say that she's lying because she's angry that she was fired from the DA's office, but you can see they were friends in college, and Fanny hires her to work in the DA's office. So there's a lot of nepotism going on here.
Can you tell us why you resigned the DA's office?
The number of things that was happening.
A number of things that were happening. Is that what you said, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay. What was happening that caused you to resign?
Not yet, Scott.
There's a spiral of things. So I guess the last straw is I was put in a department that I knew had no knowledge about, something happened. And I didn't like it. They didn't like it. And that was it.
Okay. Did you have any falling outs with Miss Willis?
You're right, LB. She really doesn't want to talk, but I believe her. Tell me if you think she's credible. She doesn't want to be there. She doesn't want to give it up, but she's giving it up. Even though they're not friends anymore, I feel like she doesn't want to betray her friend, but she's not going to lie for her and ruin her own career. She's not going to commit perjury.
Well, we never spoke after that.
You never spoke after that. Okay.
They never
so
spoke
you're-
again after she was fired from the DA's office or resigned. She was probably given the option to resign. That's what they do. Resign, keep your pension, we'll give you some severance, or we're going to fire you and you're going to be embarrassed by that.
Without going into all the painstaking details, there is no doubt in your mind that from 2019 until 2022, Miss Willis and Mr. Wade were in a romantic relationship.
What's the question?
You have no doubt that their romantic relationship was in effect from 2019 until the last time you spoke with her.
No doubt.
Bam, that's it, no doubt. And this was before Fanny testified. This is before Nathan Wade testified. But after Nathan Wade testified, a very belligerent Fanny came marching into the courtroom. She burst on the scene into the courtroom, and it was dramatic. Let's find that for you. I don't even know if we're going to see her bursting into the courtroom, but you can see when she gets on the stand, they're going to say, how did you even know how did you even know that it was your turn to testify? How did you know to come in the courtroom? And she originally had not been scheduled to testify. She was trying to get out of testifying. But once Nathan Wade got off the stand, her lover, of which specific time, we're not sure, but her best friend, roomie, college buddy, who worked with her at the DA's office, said absolutely 100% they were in a relationship in 2019. So here we go with Fani's part one of Fani's testimony. She thinks she was on the stand for the entire day. A lot of people have pointed out that her dress may have been on backwards. I have not been able to confirm that, but it sure looks like it. Let me know what you think. At first, I felt bad for her, but then after she started being so indignant, I started to get kind of angry with her righteous indignation because how dare she? Here we go. Listen to this. This is just the beginning.
All right, we're back on the record. Deputy Scott, if you could swear in our next witness.
Would, and I do apologize. Anna. Do me a favor. Put them on my knees for me, glasses. After you swear me.
Anna Cross is someone who works also in the DA's office. She's going to try and like buddy with them a little bit. I'm going to turn off the closed captioning because it's really poor. And it's so often wrong that it's not going to make it easier. It's just going to make it harder.
Swear you can go ahead and swear me, so I don't know what before.
You swear on front of the
Swear me in so I don't hold up anything. First of all, every other witness that you've ever seen be sworn in is standing. She does not even feel like she needs to stand to be sworn in. She's sitting in that seat and she's leaning back and she's not even going to stand up.
Yes, sir. District Attorney Fani, F-A-N-I. Last name is Willis.
Ms.
And
Willis, when
she doesn't spell her last name, even though she's supposed to, because you should know who I am. Don't you know who I am? She must have been so flustered that morning. Just Me says it was backwards. Look at the zipper. It's a back zipper. Also did a Google image search. There was a lot of, I know, kind of looks weird though, because the seams, right, look like they should be front seams, but I don't know. I'm confused. And then there's this part that ties around the waist. Maybe it's supposed to tie the other way. I'm very confused, but let's keep going with this.
how did you know to come into the courtroom right then?
There were people, I was pacing in my office,
Okay.
and I heard someone yell, "This testimony is done." It only made sense to me that I would be the next witness. And I've been very anxious to have this conversation with you today. So I ran to the courtroom.
So as soon as you heard that Mr. Wade was done testifying, that's when you just assumed you would be the next witness?
It only makes sense.
She was
Did you listen to any of the
pacing.
testimony?
I've been in my office pacing, ma'am.
She was in her office pacing, and it only made sense that she would be the next witness. So she started marching towards the courtroom. Nosy Rosie, I can't find that footage. If you can point me to what channel I can find that on, we will play her marching into the courtroom. This is from 11 Alive, which I think is a local Atlanta station. There was so much footage of this that when I was trying to get it ready today, I couldn't really cull it down well enough, and I could not find that marching into the courthouse, marching into the courtroom footage. But Nosy Rosie, if you find it, can you email it to me? Because I know you have my email. Thanks.
Did you listen to any of the arguments?
I did hear the arguments this morning. It's ridiculous to me that you lied on Monday, and yet here we still are. And I did listen to that argument.
All right, so that was it, just the argument, no testimony.
Right, I listened to the argument this morning where Adam Abadi, I thought, did an excellent job pointing out how dishonest you were with the court on Monday. And I'm actually surprised that the hearing continued, but since it did, here I am.
Wow, personal attack on the attorney, and she's been watching it in her office. She's not supposed to really watch it. So, okay.
Great. So let's just talk about what you did in preparation for today. Did you meet with Mr. Wade at all? Once the motion was filed, did you meet with Mr. Wade and talk to him about the motion that I filed to disqualify you?
On this first January motion?
Yes.
I don't know if you could say talked about. I probably had some choice words about some of the things that you said that were dishonest within this motion. So I don't know that it was a conversation. As you know, Mr. Wade is a Southern gentleman. Me, not so much.
Okay, but my question was, did you have a conversation with
I didn't
him?
have a substantive conversation.
You did not?
I read this motion, skimmed it more so, and I've probably said some choice things to him about some of the lies that were told.
Okay.
And then put it in the media because, we used to be in a day and time where you had 60 Minutes and people did stories and they verified information, and you had this great reporting. But it seems today that a lawyer writes a lie and then it's printed for all of the world to see.
Well, I just want to make sure that you answer the question I asked though. So my question was.
I'm gonna object. It's been asked and answered.
Overruled, Mr. Abadi.
I told you what happened. I read the motion. I am sure I told him what my opinion of it is.
Okay.
And past that, we had no substantive conversation.
You did not. Okay.
Is there something you didn't understand?
No, I just wanted to make sure that
Ooh.
you did not have
Is this
a
something
meeting
you
with
didn't
him in the
understand?
conference room to discuss the motion.
Next question,
No.
Ms. Merchant.
So in the conference room of my office, within this week, you produced some financial document. That financial document was given to me, something, and I'm not even sure who was giving it to him by me or Mr. Abadi gave it to me. And I think he showed me a document in our conference room. But as far as a substantive conversation, I don't believe I've had any conversation with him that is substantive related to this.
Okay.
I have had conversations.
Marta, I am going to agree with you, and I didn't even want to bring this up yet because it's going to get worse. Marta K says, why did the judge allow this attitude in his court? That's what I want to know. That's what I want to know too, because no other witness would be allowed to behave like this, and it's going to get worse. So just hang on.
Conversations with him since you filed the motion, but they wouldn't be substantive to this. He sent me very nice sermons that.
No, I couldn't find the clip of her entrance. Redtail, can you just put in here where you found it and what the date of it is? I don't know if you can drop links in the chat. Or you know what, if you could email it to me, fanbase@mlittlelaw.com, fanbase@mlittlelaw.com, Redtail, that would be awesome. Thank you. Oh wait, Nosy Rosie said she just sent it too. Hang on. Let's let her play for a few minutes.
That have been done. And so we've had conversations about, did you listen to that sermon? things of that nature. And I would say they were in relationship to this because I think he did it to be kind.
Okay. Let's start back in 2019.
Yep.
So you and Mr. Wade met in October 2019 at a conference?
That is correct. And I think in one of your motions, you tried to implicate I slept with him at that conference, which I find to be extremely offensive. I stayed at that conference. Mr. Wade was my teacher. I did not meet him when he taught the class. I was standing outside talking to Lisa Reeves, who is a judge. Me and her were just having a conversation. Mr. Wade walks up and they hug each other. They have some brief conversation. She introduces us.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. We kind of thought that when you asked a question, you did answer the question, not a speech. So I object to the speech.
I believe I'm able to explain my answers.
I believe she's able to explain her answers.
And that's
She wants to explain her answer, but thank you, Nosy Rosie. And I love you guys because I don't have a producer. So we are going to move over and watch her entrance because her entrance is classic, my friends. This is classic. This is what a lot of stations cut off and they didn't let us see. But Nosy Rosie is so on it for us. Like I said, I need a producer. Jeremy, if you're watching tonight, can you just come on at least one night and do a little behind the scenes? You're a real producer. I know you work for NFL now and all, but maybe you could do it for me one night. It would be fun. Promise. Here is our friend, take a load off, Fanny, walking into the courtroom, marching on in. Wait for it and go.
And suddenly he's changing. She files her financial declarations, same problem. We need a ready here to go over all of this and to explain exactly what happened. So we would ask the court that the court allow Ms. Willis to be called and interrogated on these matters.
And I would, to Your Honor.
Just a moment, Ms. Willis. So, Ms. Cross, I don't know if you want to speak with Ms. Willis now. It's sounding like maybe they're withdrawing
I believe I'm
the objection to the motion,
I believe the motion to,
or does Ms. Willis want to take the lead here?
we'll withdraw the motion to quash Ms. Willis.
Based on the
Okay, wow. So there was a motion to quash her subpoena to come in and testify. Fanny, take a load off Fanny's testimony. There was a motion to quash that subpoena. She marches into court and his name's Judge McAfee, says, Ms. Cross, who's right here behind her for the state, I'm assuming you're going to withdraw your motion to quash. Somebody says, look at the back of the dress. No way, it's on backwards. Yeah, you're probably right. Somebody said it was an Adriana Papel dress that is supposed to be that way. Could be. So we're going to withdraw our comment that it could be a most backwards dress, but I'm assuming Ms. Cross is now going to withdraw her motion to quash the subpoena for her testimony because Fanny wants to get on that stand. She's chomping at the bit.
Okay, so the position of the district attorney at this point is that she's no longer contesting the subpoena. Ms. Mershon has called her as the next witness.
I would ask, I need 3 documents in front of me, and they're the 3 filings of Ms. Merchant.
3 filings.
Coming in, sitting down, demanding documents like she is taking control of this courtroom. This is not her case. She's not trying this case. She's not the prosecutor in this case. She's a witness in this case. So the attitude is a little much for me, and I'm really surprised the judge is going to keep letting her get away with it.
Does anyone have the 3 filings of Ms. Merchant? Does the court have the 3 filings of Ms. Merchant?
When you say the filings, you mean like the pleadings?
The pleadings, yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
The pleadings. You're a freaking attorney. You don't know what the pleadings are? Filings? Really? They're the pleadings. All right, let's take out all the comments about her personal appearance. We don't need to go there. We're classy. Come on, you guys.
I think we could locate those for you in the supplemental.
I want the one filed on January the 8th. the one filed immediately after we filed ours, and the final one.
If you want to take a break to get them, I can make a copy. I think we have one.
You know, the only copy I have is going to have my notes on it. So if we don't have a clean copy,
We have a 5-minute break, John.
Let's
I'll get the
take-
documents.
all right.
I'll sit here and wait for him.
I'll sit here and wait for it. She's going to sit there and wait for it. She doesn't care.
Longer.
She's waiting. Thank you, Nosy Rosie. That was worth waiting for and worth seeing. Let's go back to her defiant testimony when she gets mad that Ms. Merchant lied and said that she was sleeping with Lava from the time she met him at the conference. She did not like that at all.
Ms. Merchant, that's okay. I can handle it. Ms. Willis, I'll ask you to listen to the answer, or excuse me, the question, and keep the answers confined to the question as best you can. I think you'll have more than enough ample opportunity on when the state.
Well, it's highly offensive when someone lies on you, and it's highly offensive when they try to implicate that you slept with somebody the first day you met with them, and I take exception to it.
All right. Well, Ms. Willis, she'll have the opportunity to explain all of that when it's the state's turn to ask more open-ended questions.
Yeah.
Ms. Merchant.
Thank you, Judge. So
She can't just let her go off on he can't just let her go off on a narrative like that. There's no question on the table. This is completely out of order. The fact that she's allowed to get up there and just make these statements, talking back to the judge, it's completely out of order. You should admonish her immediately, but he lets her keep going, and I have a problem with this.
So again, my question was, you all met at that conference though, right?
We did the meeting.
Okay.
He, as I stated, he taught the class. I did not actually meet him.
Question. The question is, you met at that conference. Answer, yes or no. She's going to keep doing this. She's going to keep volunteering all kinds of information, which is the #1 rule when you get on the stand. If the answer is yes or no, you answer yes or no. She thinks she's the smartest person in the courtroom, so she's going to keep elaborating on every question, even though it's going to hurt her, because a good lawyer never asks the question they don't already know the answer to. And you're going to see that because after her testimony, which is in 3 parts, we're going to not look at all of it, but some of it, the forensics are going to come out and she's going to be caught in all these lies. So her just volunteering all of this information is certainly not helping her.
When he taught the class. I walked out of the class, and I'm not sure if it was that exact class or we had went to lunch, but we were standing in the vestibule, like outside of the class. Me and Judge Reeves were having a conversation. She had worked at a law firm I worked at back in 1996.
We're getting way far. I mean, I don't mind her explaining her answers, but I literally just asked if they met at that
She's
conference.
explaining how she met Mr. Wade, which was exactly the question asked by Ms. Merchant.
It was-
These answers are more than appropriate.
Ms. Merchant, if you want more concise answers, perhaps you could lead the witness.
I will. Thank you, Judge. Isn't it true that you met Mr. Wade in October 2019 at the judges
We
conference?
haven't gotten to the point where Ms. Willis should be treated hostile in this situation.
I think we
And
have.
I very much want to be here, so I'm not a hostile witness. I very much want to be.
Not so much that you're hostile, Ms. Willis, it'd be an adverse witness. You're in.
She's pretty much the most hostile witness I've seen in a long time. What say you? We haven't seen a lot of hostile witnesses lately, but she is pretty much, she came up hostile. She marched in there. She wasn't even on the schedule to testify. And she just marched in. After she made a motion to quash the subpoena for her to testify at all, she was so angry that she marched in there and said, guess what? You're taking me next. I'm getting up on that stand. I'm next in line to be questioned. She was not on the schedule.
Interests are opposed to Ms. Merchant's.
Thank you.
Merchant's interests are contrary to democracy, Your Honor, not to mine.
Judge, I would
Okay, no admonition. No, Ms. Willis, control yourself. Ms. Willis, there's no question on the table. Ms. Willis, you're not allowed to sit up here and give a narrative. Miss Merchant's, what did she say? Miss Merchant's, hold on, are contrary to democracy? Really? He's just going to let her go?
Ms. Willis should be treated hostile in this situation.
I think we
And
have.
I very much want to be here, so I'm not a hostile witness. I very much want to be.
Not so much that you're hostile, Ms. Willis, it'd be an adverse witness. Your interests are opposed to Ms. Merchant's.
thank you.
Merchant's interests are contrary to democracy, Your Honor, not to mine.
Miss Merchant's interests are contrary to democracy, Your Honor, not to mine. TCAM 54 said, this is a sideshow. None of this has anything to do with Trump stealing the election. Don't be fooled. It's a sideshow, my friend, but this sideshow is going to, I'm telling you right now, dismiss this entire case. So if you think Trump stole that election in 2020 or he interfered, that he interfered with the electoral process in Georgia in 2020, you should be very angry that this woman was put in charge of it and that this woman, as the DA of Fulton County, hired her boyfriend and paid him $642,000 to prosecute this case as a special prosecutor and took lavish trips with him. So it kind of has everything to do with it, because if she is disqualified and removed from office and or disbarred and or prosecuted for perjury, either this case will go to a different county in Georgia where that district attorney will have the option as to whether or not continue with this case, and this case may go away. So this is very important, and no matter which side of the political aisle you are on, this should infuriate you. It's not a sideshow. This is very real. This is very real appearance of impropriety, and they are going to be caught. Nathan Wade had no business being appointed special prosecutor in this case. Not only was he the lover of FANI Willis, but he also did not have the experience. Kayleen says he'd never prosecuted a felony case. I can't confirm or deny that, but I can say that he was, I think he was a personal injury lawyer. Maybe he did some family court law. He was not a special prosecutor. He was given this nepotism. He's a Nepo baby. That's why he was given this job. So no matter which side of the aisle you are on, whether you believe that Trump did it or whether you believe that he didn't, you should be very angry that this is happening right now. And this is not even Trump's attorney who made the motion to disqualify her. This is Michael Roman's attorney, Ashley Merchant, who made this motion. And I'm telling you right now, in my opinion, this whole thing is she's going to be disqualified. She better be, based on the testimony that we've heard, because the text messages are coming. And I think they're going to show that she perjured herself, as did Nathan Wade. So their careers are going to be over. This is a big problem.
All right.
Judge, I just ask that we
Keep things moving. Ms. Murphy,
Thank you.
next question,
Yeah.
please.
Okay, so we've confirmed when you met. After that, isn't it true?
No, I need to explain this, and I think I get to explain my answers. When I met him, Judge Reeves introduced us. He handed me his business card. I'm unsure if I handed him my business card, but we exchanged information. He said, if you ever need any help, give me a call. And he walked to the parking lot.
So after that, you started dating shortly thereafter, correct?
That's a lie. That's one of your lies.
Okay. It's one of your
do you
lies,
know
but
Robin
not
Yurdi?
according to your
I know
bestie.
her.
Not according to your bestie, Robin Yurdi, who said that she absolutely knows 100% that you were dating in 2019 and that you even rented her condo in April 2021, and you were even dating still then, which was before he was hired on November 1st, 2021. Is everybody getting the timeline here? So the righteous indignation really needs to take a step back, because as a district attorney, she should know about forensics and how forensics can kill you in a case like this. Anybody who watched the Alec Murdaugh trial can tell you that it was Snapchat that did him in, because the Snapchat had him at the kennels when he said he never went to the kennels. There's a million cases I could cite to you with electronic forensics that kill cases and convict people. And yeah, she's not on trial here right now, but she may be at some point.
Robin Bryant. I knew her. So Robin did not go to my college. She went to the college of, I went to Howard University. She went to Morgan State. I met her through some people I knew. In college, we hung out a bit. Not much, because she was in Baltimore and I was in Washington, D.C. But we hung out a bit. After college, I lost contact with her. I probably didn't see Robin again until maybe 7 or 8 years ago, a chance meeting here in Atlanta, but we did not have a consistent relationship from when I left college and came to Emory Law School here in Atlanta. But 8 to 10 years ago, just by happenstance, I ran into her. So she was in Atlanta.
You have been friends with Robin for 30-something years.
Did you hear my answer, Matt?
Yes, and I'm asking if you've been friends with her for 30-something years.
I've known her for 30-something years. We certainly hung out and partied together in college. She was from the DC area.
I found this to be very bizarre too. the way she talks about we partied together in college. Like you're 50 something years old. You're talking about partying together in college. It's just it's a little juvenile, this part of her testimony. What say you?
Come home, we partied together. Wasn't close, but she was certainly in the girlfriends that partied together. And then, like I said, I ran into her about 10 years ago in Atlanta, Georgia. So we didn't talk throughout that time period. I didn't see her. I didn't even know where she was. When I ran into her, I was surprised she was in Atlanta. And so, yes, I have known her probably since 1990, 1991, but we have not maintained a consistent relationship that whole time.
For the last 10 years or 5, whatever you'd like to class.
Ranger Joe, you had to get the Atty Reed case in there somewhere, right? She reminds me of District Attorney Rachel Rollins of Massachusetts, a real POS. Thanks for keeping it classy, Ranger Joe. I appreciate you. So she's going to talk about why, why Rachel, why Robin shouldn't be trusted. But let's fast forward a little bit because there's a lot of Fanny testimony that we want to talk about, and we'll be here all night. I do enjoy your company, so. Let's fast forward to I think about 30 minutes when she starts talking about the winery trip. And this is good for at least 13 minutes. So let's get to 30 minutes in here. I do suggest if you haven't watched it, go back and watch all of the testimony because it's riveting. It is riveting.
And champagne, chocolate, and caviar. It was a 3, and it was like,
California.
my daughter doesn't live in California. We spent a couple of days with his mama. We came back to Miami. When we came back, we gave him while we were still in the leagues. What are you talking about? There's going to be cash in my house.
Oh, here we go.
Sure that the source of the money is always the fungible. Okay. Now, I don't know why this old black man feels
Correct?
right, and his mother was not happy.
He
and we left her
initially paid
behind.
for that. He initially paid for that.
For Aruba, yes, ma'am.
So let's talk about both of those. I know he initially paid for it. Did you pay him back?
For the cruise and for Aruba, yeah, I gave him his money before we ever went on that trip.
She's going to try and say that she paid him back for every single trip. Therefore, she did not receive a financial benefit from his being the special prosecutor and his being paid $654,000 in fees by the taxpayers of Fulton County, Georgia. There was a taxpayer in here before that I put your comment up there, and I'm sorry for you. I am sorry. Oh yeah, we're gonna show her dad, Pierre. We can't not show her dad with the microscope, with the giant magnifying glass. We might be here for a long time, so settle in, go make some popcorn. You can come back and fast forward it a bit, or put it on a higher speed so that you can enjoy it with me. But it definitely is popcorn worthy. Okay.
You gave him cash before you ever went on the trip?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so when you got cash to pay him back on these trips, would you go to the ATM?
No, lady.
He would not go to the ATM.
No, lady. She just said no, lady. How do you call an attorney? A fellow attorney in Massachusetts, they would say, my sister. Lady. No, lady. I mean, is it just me? Am I reacting? Am I overreacting? Is that completely disrespectful? No, lady.
These trips, would you go to the ATM?
No, lady.
He would not go to the ATM.
No.
Okay. So Fulton County pays you direct deposit, I assume?
Yes, Fulton County and the state of Georgia both pay me direct deposits.
Okay. So the cash that you would pay him, you wouldn't get it out of the bank?
I have money in my house.
You have money in your house. So it was just money that was there.
When you meet my father, he's going to tell you as a woman, you should always have, which I don't have, so let's don't tell him that. You should have at least 6 months in cash at your house at all times. Now, I don't know why.
Okay. Let's take a step back for 1 second. So she's the district attorney of Fulton County, Georgia. She still is. She hasn't been removed. She's still and she's announcing on national, international television that she has money hidden in her house all over the place. Why? Why? Why would you do that? because she's also going to testify about all the problems that she had and all the people that were coming after her and how she had to move out of the house she shared with her dad because she was afraid. But she's announcing on international television that she hides a lot of money in her house. Okay.
This old black man feels like that, but he does. When we were growing up, my daddy had 3 safes in the house. So my father's bought me a lockbox, and I always keep cash in the house. Now, I don't do it to the degree that my father would do it, so he would probably be ashamed with me, but I always have cash at the house. That has been, I don't know, all my life. If you're a woman and you go on a date with a man, you better have $200 in your pocket. So if that man acts up, you can go where you want to go. So I keep cash in my house. And
my mother used to call that mad money. You should always have mad money when you go out on a date in case you need to take a cab home. She tries to make it a black thing, but it's not. It's not. I don't know, all the girls my age that are out there, you know how old we are. Did your mom always tell you to have mad money when you went out on a date?
I don't keep cash as good in my purse like I used to, because I don't go on many dates. But when you go on a date, you should have cash in your pocket.
So my question was, where did that cash originally come from? If it didn't come out of the bank?
Cash is fungible. We've had cash for years in my house. So for me to tell you the source of when it comes from, when you go to Publix and you buy something, you get $50, you throw it in there. It's been my whole life. When I took out a large amount of money on my first campaign, I kept some of the cash of that. Like, to tell you,
I kept some of the campaign cash. I also kept some of the campaign cash in my house because, you know, it's not unethical to keep your campaign cash, but I also kept my campaign cash in my house. Am I in the Twilight Zone right now? Am I? I feel like somebody should be singing the Twilight Zone theme for me in the background.
Cash in my house. I don't have as much today as I would normally have, but I'm building back up now. So you just put money in. It's a very good practice. I would advise it to all women.
So you can't identify when you came into this cash or where the cash came from?
I didn't say I couldn't identify it. No, nobody gives me anything. I am sure that the source of the money is always the work, sweat, and tears of me. What you asked me.
Work, sweat, and tears of me. All that money, that's where it came from. She's going to now quantify it. She's very militant. She's very belligerent. She's very independent, which is not a bad thing, but it's almost like nobody ever gave me anything. I have everything myself. My daddy told me to keep cash, and I even kept some of my campaign cash, and she's going to really tell her what is up.
For is, when did the money go in there? What I am trying to tell you is, so I got divorced in 2005 from my husband. And no, it's important. You said, where did the money come from? And I need to tell you where the money came from. And so for many, many years, I have kept money in my house. That money in my worst days has probably only been $500 or $1,000. At my best days, I probably had $15,000 in my house of cash. At all times, there's going to be cash in my house or wherever I'm laying my head.
The money that you paid.
So now her house is not always going to be her house. It's going to be where she lays her head. That's going to come up again soon too, because Ashley, I think at least Ashley, or maybe it's Sadao who's going to throw that back in her face. Yeah, again, lots of money in my house. I kept it there. Steven says, just an FYI, lawyers in Massachusetts don't say brother and sister. That was just that one attorney at that one hearing. I know, I never heard it again. But somebody did say that it was an old school sort of lingo in Massachusetts courts. Monica Mitchell, why is this judge letting her keep talking? She needs to go to Norfolk Superior Court and see what happens. I know a Monica Mitchell. Are you the Monica Mitchell that I worked with on a TV show? Do you write for a TV show? Let me know if that's you, Monica. I don't know why she keeps talking. He just lets her go and go and go. I don't know if he's intimidated by her, but this is insane.
Mr. Wade, the cash in October of 2022, you do not know where that money came from.
I do know where it came from. It came from my sweat and tears.
Do you know which job it came from? Did it come from Fulton County or did it come from a private job?
It came from, what are you talking about? So it could have come from a private job because before I was DA, I was in private practice. So I earned money during that time period. It's probably in there.
You don't know.
Could have. What do you mean? I don't know where it came from. I absolutely
understand the situation. You can move on.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Same with Aruba. You don't know where that cash came from either, right?
Ma'am, you are mischaracterizing my testimony greatly. I'm not going to allow you to mischaracterize my testimony. I know that I keep money in my house. The amounts of money I gave Mr. Wade, it was never that serious. I don't think I've ever handed him more than $2,500 in a reimbursement.
It was never that serious. It was never over the $10,000 limit, Your Honor, that he would have to report to the IRS. It was never more than 2,500 beans.
So we're not talking about $20,000 in cash. I don't have $20,000 in cash right now. The most I ever gave him, I know I gave him $2,500 when we went to Belize, because we went to one hotel and then we went to a second hotel. That $2,500 I actually gave him while we were still in Belize. I know that the Aruba trip, the one that you described with his mom, I think I gave him about $2,000 for that trip, for like total.
His mom went to Aruba with you?
The Aruba trip. So I consider that to be one trip. So we got off of a cruise ship and then we went to Aruba, which is why I cannot remember is that the time that we had to stay in Miami to wait for the flight for Aruba.
Wow, a lot of
So I
detail.
consider that one trip, that we didn't like come back to Atlanta and leave. We flew down to Miami. We got on a cruise ship. We spent a couple of days with his mama. We came back to Miami. When we came back to Miami, either that day or the next day, we flew to Aruba. We spent a few days in Aruba and we came back. That was really one trip. Even though we went two places, it was one trip.
So let's talk about the California trip. Is that when you were moving your daughter out to California?
That was
When
good.
you all went, or did you have 2 trips to California?
My daughter doesn't live in California.
Did she ever live in California?
I'm not discussing to you the location of my child.
I'm not discussing with you the location of my child. I agree with her there, but I don't know. She just the attorney kept going, so she didn't ask for any more clarity on that.
So how many times did you go with Mr. Wade to California?
Once.
And you all stayed in Napa Valley and he paid for the plane tickets and the hotel?
He paid for the plane tickets and the hotel.
And what did you pay for on that trip?
I gave him much less cash that time, probably $400 or $500, and then I paid for a bunch of stuff. I think we did 2 different wine tours that you do, which are pretty expensive. I think I bought him. He likes wine. I don't really like wine, to be honest with you. I like Grey Goose.
I like Grey Goose. I don't really like wine. I like Grey Goose. If you guys haven't seen this before, there are so many sound bites in here for t-shirts. Maybe I should write that down. I don't like wine. I don't really like wine. I like Grey Goose. T-shirt idea. I like Grey Goose. Okay. That was an excellent, or maybe not so excellent, pitch endorsement for Grey Goose.
I bought him a bottle of wine while we were there, and the sippings that you do. I can't remember how many, like 4 or 5 different places you go. I remember we went to this place that they do pairings. That was the most expensive thing that I think that we did while we were there. So they would pair, champagne, chocolate, and caviar. It was a 3, and it was like 3 different things: Sweden, Russia, someplace else. I'll make that up. But that was the most expensive thing we did that trip, and I paid for that.
Did you pay cash?
For us doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that trip did not cost me a lot of money. I might have took like $750 in cash on me because we weren't gone very long.
I'd only asked if you paid in cash.
Over-explaining the
When I travel, I always pay
over-explaining.
cash.
And is the cash that you keep in your house, or do you keep it at the condo that you were living in?
So at that point, it wouldn't be at my house, and I'm sorry if I was not clear. The money would be wherever I laid my head. So I wouldn't leave the money at the house. So if I was unclear,
Wherever I laid my head.
money's gonna be where I stay.
How much did you pay for your trip to Panama?
To where?
Panama, I believe.
I didn't go
I
to
may have
Panama.
the location wrong.
I never went to Panama.
So after
Wade went to Panama with his frat brother.
Oh, he went to Panama with his frat brothers. So tell me about, let's see. So I want to make sure I've got them. I've got Belize. You already covered Belize. You covered the.
So let me tell you our real trips. In October, we went on the cruise with his mom. We got back from the cruise with his mom and we went to Aruba. I consider that one trip. Second trip, New Year's Eve, we went on a cruise to the Bahamas. That's the second trip. Let me make sure I get this right. Third trip, 100% on me. I think he might have spent $200 on that entire trip. We went to Belize. That was my trip. That was, his 50th. And then Napa Valley, we went around May. I don't know the dates, but it seems to me like it was close to Mother's Day.
A lot of vacations for a district attorney to take, right? It's like 4 or 5 vacations within a year. How much time does she get off? A lot of vacations.
And those are the only trips?
So that the record is complete, I can remember one time driving to, where were we? South Carolina, and we met my sister for lunch with her man. We didn't stay I don't know, but we didn't stay the night there. But I guess people would consider that a trip if you drive somewhere and you come back. That was insane because it was like 5 hours to drive. We ate lunch and we drove right back. I can remember driving to some little town in Georgia. I don't even know where I was. I had never been there before or after. There's some boat you can get on over to, and they're like a slave thing, if that gives anyone any reference. We didn't do that. I remember doing that. I remember driving one time to Charlotte. We had lunch with one of my very close girlfriends. And again, we drove to Charlotte, met my girlfriend for lunch, and drove right back. So that's a trip. We didn't stay the night there, but I just want to be complete in my testimony. Mm-hmm. We drove someplace, had lunch, drove back. I don't remember another driving someplace distant for lunch and coming back to Charlotte to see a girlfriend, to meet my sister in South Carolina. We went by ourselves when I told you about that remote place in Georgia. We could have driven someplace else and had lunch and came back, but that's all that comes to my recollection right now. There could have been another place we drove and had lunch. My security team was very clear to me. I'm not to be out and about in Atlanta without them. And so for me to do something just very normal that a normal person would get to do if they weren't prosecuting this case, I got to drive 4 hours to do it.
And that's what I was going to ask you. Your security detail, did they take you to and from your house?
So I haven't been able to enjoy my home.
Condo, I'm sorry.
In March.
Where are you like?
Yeah, she hasn't been able to enjoy her. Jenny wins for knowing that. I think in song lyrics, Jenny Edmondson says, Papa was a rolling stone. Wherever he laid his head was his home. Oh my goodness, Linda Vergata, yes. In my opinion, over-explaining always suggests lying. They're trying to add details and details and details to sort of distract you from your questioning, right? Like, let me add all these details so maybe you follow up on some of this instead of like, oh, look, something shiny. Oh, look, something shiny. Don't get back to what you were trying to ask me. Let me try and distract you from what I was trying to say.
Lay your head. Did they take you to and from where you lay your head?
99% of the time.
Would they take Mr. Wade to and from wherever you laid your head?
That has never in the history of ever happened, ever, okay?
Your security team has never taken him?
From my house? That's a lie.
That's another if they've ever taken him anywhere.
And I'm telling you that that's never happened.
So your security team has never taken
Mr. Wade. My security team has never taken Mr. Wade from any place where I have lived and brought him here. Never, not once, not ever.
Have they ever taken the two of you together?
To where?
Anywhere.
We've left this building and gone to lunch, but I go to lunch so rarely that is a very rare occasion, I am sure. And let me be clear, it wouldn't just be Mr. Wade. So I'm sure my security team has taken me to lunch. Probably been a time I've left here 7 o'clock, gone to get something to eat. And I don't even know that they would have taken him or if he would have driven himself, but they've taken me to do that. But we're talking very few, very far in between. Most days I don't even eat lunch. And when I do, it's because my assistant has heated up some bag, something, and I eat through meetings and eat in my office. It's not a practice of mine to go to lunch.
During the time period that you were dating, would your security team ever take you two together anywhere?
No.
Never.
If there was a lunch that occurred that I just described, if there was a meal that occurred that I just described, anything outside of that, and it needs to be very clear. Not often, once, twice, because I want to be over inclusive. I'm saying once or twice. I'm not certain that it happened, but I'd rather be over inclusive with you.
So your office objected to us getting Delta records for flights that you may have taken when you surveyed.
Well, no. I object to you getting records. You've been intrusive into people's
This is good stuff. Hang on a second. Hello, Tom Gillis, golf instruction. Did I ever tell you about my hole-in-one? I know. I say that every single time you come into the chat. But this is good because they're talking about trying to get her Delta flight records. And she's going to give them the what for on this one.
It happened, but I'd rather be over inclusive with you.
So your office objected to us getting Delta records for flights that you may have taken when you surveyed.
Well, no. I object to you getting records. You've been intrusive into people's personal lives. You're confused. You think I'm on trial. These people are on trial for trying to steal an election in 2020. I'm not on trial, no matter how hard you try to put me on trial.
So my question was,
I am not on trial, no matter how hard you try to put me on trial. Did you see my thumbnail? How I made that cute little cartoon that says I am not on trial here? That's where it's from. That may not age very well, that quote. What say you? Stephen, great question. Is it, as a trial lawyer, is it better to let her ramble on or ask the judge to tell her to answer the question? It depends on if you can surmise what she's going to say. If what you think she's going to say is going to bury her, let her go. If you are afraid she's going to say something that is going to perhaps hurt your case, cut her off. Make her stop talking. Your Honor, direct her to answer the question. Your Honor, direct her to stop talking. Your Honor, she's being non-responsive. None of that's going on here. So it could be either inexperience or it could be let her go. She's only hurting herself. Ken says, do you think she will be removed from the case? I do. I do think she will be. I think she has to be. I think she has to be. After we're going to see the text messages, we're going to see the cellular data and the electronic forensics. And Tom loves to hear about my hole-in-one every time. 116 yards with an 8-iron. Thank you very much. And there's a plaque in the clubhouse to prove it. That's the best part. Except, do you know that when you get a hole-in-one, those of you who are not golfers, you have to buy everyone at the club a round of drinks. So they have insurance for that. Pro tip, get the insurance.
do you have any
I
problem?
object to you getting any personal records of mine.
We're not dealing with privilege through a witness.
And I'm not, no, I'm not dealing with privilege. What we had offered to put them in camera for the court to review, and I just want to know if she has any
That's not
problem.
something you deal with a witness.
Okay,
First time
you have
she's
to file
quiet.
for your job
Hearing.
something called the Income and Financial Disclosure Report, correct?
That's correct.
And you filed your first one, so you filed 2 today, is that right?
Is it 2 or 3? I probably would have filed 21, 22, and maybe I haven't filed 23 yet, because isn't it due like June of the next year?
April, I believe. So you filed, let's see, you filed your first one, it looks like April 15th, 2022, and your second one, April 17th, 2023. Does that sound familiar?
That I don't remember the dates, but you're an officer of the court. I'm gonna hope you're telling the truth now.
Oh
May
my.
I press
I'm going to hope you're
You may.
telling the
Thank
truth
you. I
now,
already gave the
as
standard.
opposed to all the lies that you told in your motions about when I slept with my lava. Nathan Wade. And I hope you're telling the truth now. Remember, Fanny, you can't use it as a shield and a sword. You can't tell her you're an officer of the court, so you better not be lying now when you, my friend, are also an officer of the court, so you better not be lying now. It's going to be a problem. I foresee, my crystal ball says, problem. Go Bruins. I don't know what the score is right now. But Anne, excellent comment. With a witness like Miss Fanny, you don't know whether to just let herself snitch via her babbling or keep her to yes or no. Certainly the babbling has been way more entertaining. It has been. Not in a good way for her. I wonder if Bruce Rivers, my favorite criminal lawyer, has done a piece on this yet about Fanny self-snitching. If anybody has a direct line to Bruce Rivers, I would love to have him on the show. Okay, onward.
Copy exhibit 20 and 21, if you take a look at those. They were part of the certified records.
Can somebody bring me some? Yeah. Guys are getting a little old. Yes,
Okay,
yes,
so
ma'am.
those are the ones that you filed.
This looks like me for sure. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Should we move to admit 20 and 21?
I think you need to delineate which one's which
20
one's which.
is 2021, so it accounts for the time period, Your Honor, January the 1st, 21 through December the 31st, 2021. That is Defendant's Exhibit 20. Defendant's Exhibit 2021, it accounts for the time period, January the 1st, 2022 through December the 1st of 2022.
All right, any objection to exhibits 20 and 21
Nope. Sorry.
from other counsel?
She's not allowed. She's not making objections. She's making objections. She thinks the judge is talking to her when he's asking if there's an objection. This is beyond comprehension, my friends. Beyond.
Admitted without objection.
When did your personal relationship with Mr. Wade end?
Okay, listen up. When did your personal relationship with Mr. Wade end? This is going to be another word salad type answer, so listen up.
Our personal relationship ended in this year. So let's be very clear so that we don't mix words. I don't want to mix words in here. Mr. Wade is my friend right now. Mr. Wade, I would say, has been my friend since 2020. I think he started out as like a mentor and a professional colleague. He became my friend and somebody that I really respected. I feel very indebted to Mr. Wade for taking on the task of this job. And he is certainly my friend and one of the people that I respect the most. So if you ask about a personal relationship, I consider myself to have a personal relationship right now, Mr. Wade. I consider myself to have a personal relationship with Anna Cross. I consider myself to have a personal relationship with Mr. Abadi. I consider myself to have a personal relationship with Andrew Evans.
Okay, let me just clarify that.
I have a personal relationship with him as we speak right now.
A romantic
I don't think that's what you're asking. I think that's what
romantic
you're asking.
relationship. When did your romantic relationship with Mr. Wade end?
My-
Did it end?
Me and Mr. Wade, we are good friends. My respect for him has grown over these 7 weeks of attacks. We are
Again, she can't answer the question about when it ended. I don't think it ended. But she's going to do a mansplaining type answer here when she talks about the difference between men and women and when they would say the relationship ended.
very good friends. I think, but for these attacks, it would have been a friendship that as life goes, you would have stopped having. I think that you have cemented that we'll be friends to the day we die.
Let's.
Could we just have an answer to the question?
I can handle Mr. Seda. Let's have-
She asked about a personal relationship.
She asked when the romantic relationship ended. That's the question.
It's sometime in, I'd say late summer of 2023. So I don't believe in, this is what you're really asking about. This is the salaciousness of all of this, right?
No, I'm just asking about your romantic relationship, when you stopped dating. I'm asking.
I think that me and Mr. Wade, so he's a man, he probably would say June or July. I would say we had a tough conversation in August. And so that men in relationships at the end of physical intimacy, women in relationships when that tough conversation takes place.
And where, when did he come to?
What say you, my friends? What say you? Is that the difference between men and women? Men say it ended when the physical ended, and women say it ended when the tough conversation happens. Because guess what? Sometimes the tough conversation never happens. Sometimes there is no tough conversation. It's just over.
I guess the condo, I'm not sure what you called it, condo apartment. Would he come and stay at that condo or visit you there? I'm sorry, visit you there.
What condo, what apartment? I want to be clear.
So not your house. I know you classified one as house and one as condo. So I'm trying to use those terms.
So there's been more. See, what you don't understand is because of this case, I got to move. And so I
Ms.
need
Merchant, if you
to,
could ask a more precise question.
yes, please give me the time period.
Mr. Wade visited you at the place you laid your head.
When?
Has he ever visited you at the place you laid your head?
So let's be clear, because you lied in this. Let me tell you which one you lied in. Right here. I think you lied right here. No. This is the truth, Judge. And it is a lie. It is a lie.
As well.
Wait, that was so good. I just got to rewind that a little bit. And again, the judge just lets her go. It's like a train wreck. It's like this thing is rolling down the track and nobody's going to stop it.
When?
Has he ever visited you at the place you laid your head?
So let's be clear, because you lied in this, let me tell you which one you lied in, right here. I think you lied right here. No. This is the truth.
Judge,
It is a lie. It
We're
is
gonna-
a lie.
Ms. Willis?
You see.
Mr. Saynow, thank you. We're going to take 5 minutes. Be back in 5.
I mean,
Thanks,
the
Judge.
righteous indignation is a little bit beyond, my friends. What say you? If you're just watching this for the first time, welcome, because this is quite interesting. Cindy Collins says, yes, Melanie, our entire legal system is suffering from shenanigans such as this. That's right. And that's why no matter what side of the political aisle you are on, this should make you mad. 300, the cell phone records have not been put into evidence by the judge, but he will let the defense talk about them in their closing arguments on Friday. Yes, which is tomorrow. I don't know what time it's starting. I'm going to say either 9 or 10 o'clock. I would imagine it's East Coast time because they're in Georgia. Monica says, father, why is she still talking about him? Exploited innocence, what's her salary? I think she said she makes around $200,000 a year. Somebody said in here her net worth is around $8 million. Can't confirm or deny, but I'm putting it out there. This was the self-snitching comment. So if anybody has an open line of communication to Bruce Rivers, that would be pretty awesome. All right, let's see. We're not even at 2 hours yet. So let's play a little bit more of her testimony. Part 2, right at the very beginning, she's going to get into the lie that she was just talking about. So let's watch that, and then we'll fast forward a bit because we have to get to Terrence Bradley's testimony. There is nobody who wanted to be on the stand less than that guy. He was mopping his brow with a giant rag. I mean, that's how worried he is about his career, and really, who could blame him because his career is probably over too.
How often did Mr. Wade visit you at a place where you were living between 2019 and 2021?
So you want to start with the lie that he lived with me in South Fulton in 2019, a home he's never been to? That's one lie you told in your document. No.
Judge, I didn't ask her about that.
Ms. Merchant, I want you to ask a very precise question. I think she's saying and answering that he did not live with her. So why don't we break that up into smaller
Ever.
parts?
I didn't ask about living.
But you put in your, while we're
Again, an example of how the judge is trying to ask her, help her ask a question. But again, somebody says here, BL, judge has no control over his courtroom. And yeah, you're absolutely 100% right. I can think of a lot of other judges that would have had a lot more control over this courtroom. Name one that we've watched recently together in a trial.
We're talking about professionalism. No, while we're talking about professionalism, she put in 3 different documents
Folks,
he
you'll
lived
have
with me.
full opportunity to respond.
And she throws the papers. And
And
she
you
throws
filed
the
them with
papers
the
and
court.
is not
In defense-
admonished that if she does that again, she's going to be excused. She wasn't even supposed to testify that day. Remember, she made a motion to quash. The fact that he's letting her act like a petulant child, throw her papers around, obfuscate, change subject, ramble on. That's 2 different songs that I can think of in my head. There's a Led Zeppelin song in there, and there's a Ramble On Rose Grateful Dead song in there. So she's rambling on.
2019.
He's never been to South Fulton. In 2019, I lived in South Fulton. He has never been to my residence in 2019, ever, not once.
In
2019, he's never been to your residence, any place.
I lived in my home in South Fulton.
And this is good because Ashley Merchant knows that she's got the cellular data to prove that he was there. To prove that he was there between something like 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. And that she's going to say if he was ever there, it was only because we were looking at papers and going over work. But she knows that she's getting her in a lie, and that's why she's letting her keep talking.
Before I started getting the threats that were here, a house I paid for with my own sweat and tears. I'm no longer able to live there. But in 2019, I did. And in the 2 months of 2019 that I knew Mr. Wade, 3 months, the beginning of October, all of November, and all of December, Mr. Wade never came to my house in South Fulton. Let me help you out. I lived there in 2020. He never came to my house in 2020, let alone live with me, as you put falsely in these documents.
Let me help you out again. Again, the judge says nothing. He's just sitting there. Good grandma says actually her behavior proves she might be delusional. At the very least.
In the first 3 months of 2021, when I could still enjoy my home, Mr. Wade never came to South Fulton, and it is certainly a lie that he lived with me.
So in 2020, so you said 2019, 2020, did Mr. Wade ever visit you at a place that you
He has
resided?
never been to my home in South Fulton. 2020 was before I knew that a phone call was going to be made and I was going to have to abandon my home. As a result thereof, he never visited, lived at, came to, or has seen South Fulton.
You qualify that with your home in South Fulton.
That's where I lived in 2020.
In 2020, did he ever visit you at a place that you resided?
Okay, I don't understand. You don't give me that. In 2020, I lived in South Fulton.
Okay.
That's the only place I lived in South Fulton. That's before.
She turns to the judge and says, okay, you're going to have to give me guidance. No, that's not the judge's job to give you guidance. I don't care if he donated to your campaign. It's not the judge's job to give you guidance. Wow. Yes, exactly. Exactly, Debbie Carroll. They have phone tower pings. And that's why Wade tried to walk it back. Oh, I may have been there, but the only reason that I was there in that area near that cell phone tower, perhaps, he's thinking now in his head, because he's got half a brain, is there was some Porsche thing going on that somebody just pointed out here. Or maybe I was over there because there was a restaurant I liked over there, or had a whole bunch of abra.
Before I had to abandon my home, Judge.
All right.
And at my home in
We're
South
gonna clarify
Fulton,
this. We'll break it down.
he never came there, okay? So if you don't come someplace, you can't live there.
Ms. Willis, I'm gonna have to caution you. This is gonna be the first time I have to caution you. We have to listen to the questions as asked. And
Oh my goodness me, clutch my pearls. He's going to caution her. He's actually going to caution her for the first time after she's already been on there for at least an hour.
And at my home in
we're
South
gonna clarify
Fulton,
this. We'll break it down.
he never came there, okay? So if you don't come someplace, you can't live there.
Ms. Willis, I'm gonna have to caution you. This is gonna be the first time I have to caution you. We have to listen to the questions as asked. And if this happens again and again, I'm gonna have no choice but to strike your testimony. So we need to break this down. Ms. Merchant's question, I believe, was asking whether you lived anywhere other than South Fulton.
I did not live anywhere but South Fulton, Georgia in 2020. That is before I began my prosecution of this case, and it was my plan to only live there.
Did Mr. Wade ever visit you at the condo that you leased from Miss Yearby?
He visited that condo, yes.
He did.
Yes.
Did he ever spend the night at that condo?
No.
Just visited.
Yeah, but he did visit for sure.
Did you ever go out to eat together, other than the lunches you talked about, during 2019 or 2020?
I would think that we probably went to lunch, but it wouldn't have been, let me think, 2019. I'm going to say, I don't know. I'm going to say we probably broke bread someplace in 2019. I don't remember it, but it seems like we would have broke bread sometime in 2019. So I'm going to say yes, although I have no recollection.
Broke bread.
But it seems to me like I go out to eat and drink with pretty much everyone. So I'm going to say yes.
So outside of the vacations that we've already talked about, did you ever go out to dinner?
I mentioned to you that
I'm going to object as to what time period. Like we're asking very vague questions. I thought we were treating the witness as hostile under 611. We're no longer doing that. So we're going to go back and forth. We need to be more specific with our questions if we're going to treat her as hostile.
All right, Ms. Merchant, it's not so much. I think you can elect between leading and open-ended questions, but I think we are still wondering about And I think we need to get back on track of focusing on the financial benefit or the relationship.
And my next question about if you did go out to dinner, who paid when you went out to dinner?
He paid, I paid.
You both paid.
Okay, so let me be real clear. We didn't say, oh, the bill is $102. You give $51, I'll give $51.
Oh boy.
I don't operate like that with my girlfriends. I don't operate like that with anyone. He caught the bill, I caught the bill. Whomever.
Did you ever pay him through Cash App?
No.
You only ever paid him through cash?
Well, yes. We're talking about, I'm very confused.
You've
now,
never
like,
given Mr. Wade money through Cash App?
No,
The only money you've ever given him outside of a contract is cash.
I didn't give him money in a contract. So that was cute, but I didn't give him money outside in a contract. What happened is, no,
That was cute. That was cute. County gave him a contract. I didn't give him a contract, but that was cute. So condescending.
we're going to answer it since you said it. He worked more hours than he was paid, and the county paid him for the work that he did. So don't be cute with me and then think that you're not going to get an answer.
And I
Wow.
will ask you about the contract in a minute. I asked you about cash. Did you ever pay him anything? And
And again, no admonition from the judge. Don't be cute with me. You asked me that question, you're going to get an answer. I mean, it just keeps getting better and better because it goes on for like another hour or two. Kimmy says it's getting harder to stay classy. Golden Mare says, Patronus Glow. Hi, Patronus Glow, one of my amazing moderators. I watch a lot of attorneys, but Melanie is straightforward, down to earth, and common sense. I appreciate all that, and not just about growing in numbers. Yeah, I don't care. My numbers aren't growing. Although, while you're here, hit the subscribe button. It's free. If you like what you're watching and you're enjoying yourself in the chat, it doesn't cost you anything to hit the subscribe button because it helps push the video out. It helps more people see this stuff. This is the kind of stuff that makes me mad. These are the kind of cases that I like to cover because I'm passionate about them. And I say this with every case I cover, that I am a trial lawyer. I've been a trial lawyer for 30 years. I am not pro this or pro that. I'm not pro plaintiff, pro defendant, pro prosecution, pro defense. Every single case that we cover, in my opinion, is going to shift. And I'm going to share it with you because I am not a cupcake, as it says up there. I can't make everyone happy. I'm not a cupcake. This is not a neutral channel. You're going to get my opinions. But what I am is a believer in the Constitution, the rule of law, and procedure. I do not believe that something like this should be allowed to happen, and I'm going to talk about it. So if you like what you're watching and you enjoy being here, please hit the subscribe button because it helps. Helps the channel. It helps push it out. I'm not going to beg you for money. I'm not going to tell you that I'm starving and I can't afford food like other creators will do. It's not about that. I don't just read your questions because you throw in a super chat. It's not the thing. That's not what we do here. We try and keep it classy. And we just like to talk about, what's right, what's wrong. And you're going to get that from me. So thank you. Thank you, Cindy. Thanks. And Cad Monkey says, I think this stream needs a few more likes. Yeah, I knew this wasn't going to be huge tonight. This is not, I don't have everybody from Canton watching tonight because it's Karen Reed. This is very small. This is 626 people who want to hear about this case and who believe possibly that it's quite as comedic as I do. Because this is just, you can't make this stuff up. You could not script it funnier than this. And Saturday Night Live doesn't even have to take much other than the exact testimony that we're watching to make a skit. Exactly. It's hilarious. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Touch my pearls, clutch my pearls. That's a t-shirt for sure. Yes, I will absolutely take t-shirt suggestions because that's another thing we like to do here is just make up t-shirts. It strains credulity. That's one that we got from the Maya Kowalski case. A lot of this strains credulity. I can't even believe we're hearing some of this stuff. I can't believe the righteous indignation of FANI, but it's still here. It's still here. So let's get her back on the screen because we're still here for it.
trying to qualify my questions. I'm not talking about the contract with Fulton County that was paid. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about outside of that. Did you ever pay him anything other than cash?
I've only given him cash a few times in the course of what we're talking about.
So you've
If
never
we
used
would
your
go to
credit card?
dinner,
Let her finish her answer.
if we would go to dinner, I wouldn't give him cash because he paid for dinner or I paid for dinner. I've given him cash only a few times in life, probably 4.
Okay.
Probably the most money I've ever handed him is $2,500. The least amount of money I've handed him, probably between $500 and $1,000.
All right. So she's trying to say that she 100% has never given him any more than $2,500. Oh, for the love of the traveling Mary. Let's fast forward through some of this because we can't go through every single portion of it, but I do suggest that you go back and watch it in its entirety because it is fun.
To prove or attempting to show that there is an issue on the credibility about the relationship. The failure to have informed anyone on her team that she was having a romantic relationship with the lead prosecutor, I suggest gives rise to that inference. That's the relevance.
The inference that
that they were concealing this because it was not as it's been characterized to the court, and that in fact it started earlier than what they say.
all right, overruled. Mr. Sadon.
But I just want to make sure that we're clear.
Oh boy.
From at least 2020, me and Mr. Wade were friends. At least that time period.
Okay, I'm not talking
Okay, so
about.
no, I want to be clear because my credibility is being evaluated here, right? We were friends. We hung out prior to November of 2021. In November of 2021, I hired him. I do not consider our relationship to have become romantic until early of 2022. Because I don't know a date and time, I'm saying sometime between February and April of 2022, and very early April of 2022, because I know that the trip that I discussed with you was like the first week of 2022, that the relationship had become romantic. I hope that answered your question, but I can't have it where, we're saying something differently.
All right, so you've established the timeline as you put it. The question originally was, at that time, did you tell any other prosecutors?
I never tell people at work who I'm dating.
All right, Mr. Sada.
Okay. Did you take any trips to DC with Mr. Wade?
Never.
Did you take, okay, so do you have no, what I would call personal trips or business trips to DC with Mr. Wade?
I never went to DC with Mr. Wade, personal, business, otherwise, never.
Okay, so.
I've never been in the District of Columbia with Mr. Wade or Maryland, Virginia, the DMV as they call it.
So as I understand it, to
That
be
was-
clear,
That was something I learned today.
any trips
For
that you
whatever
would
day
have
I
taken.
watched this, the DMV. I've never been in the DMV with him. DC, Maryland, or Virginia. They call that the DMV. Did anybody else know that? Wow, I learned something every day. Let me be clear. Is Cricket's idea for a t-shirt? You can vote on that.
Taken to see DC.
That was,
Would not-
that was a pretty clear answer.
Huh?
That was a pretty clear answer.
Asked me
She just said no.
twice.
So you have a variation or something new to bring up?
I'll ask it and we'll see. Did you take trips to DC that were non-business during the time period that this case or this matter was under investigation?
I'm going to object as to relevance as it relates to the matter that we're here before Your Honor.
Well, again, the question already asked was, did you take personal or business trips? She said,
But that was with
personal
Mr.
or
Wade.
business.
That was with Mr. Wade. This I asked her alone whether she took.
Okay.
What's the
And
relevance?
what would be the relevance of that?
I tried to understand whether or not we have an ability to show a personal trip in which Mr. Wade is there at the same time. I understand her answer. Okay, I understand her answer, but we have documents, we have records that.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to the documents, the things.
Well, this could be something that's maybe not part of the record yet, but if he has I think there have been other things discussed in this case, and they have evidence that Mr. Wade may have been in DC at the same time. If you want to ask about that exact specific date, Mr. Sadon, you can do that.
I would reference to the court that that was not asked of Mr. Wade. Anything about any trips to DC.
Sure. And so that's going to limit.
He looks a little shiny too. Like he's really sweating it up, the state's attorney here. Oh, poor guy. It's like, turn up the air in here, would you?
It's merit and impact on credibility. So, Mr. State, I'll ask the question.
So,
I understand your testimony is you never took a trip to DC with Mr. Wade,
that's correct.
personal or business.
That's correct.
Were you ever in DC at the same time as Mr. Wade?
I was
on
not.
personal or business?
No, me and Mr. Wade have not been to DC at the same time. However, since Mr. Wade has been on this case, he's been to DC. Since Mr. Wade has been on to this case, I've been to DC. What has not happened is we have not been in the District of Columbia at the same time. Now, the only thing I'm not sure about with what you asked me is if I've been to DC personally, because I got a lot of personal friends in that area. But I know that I have been to DC. I did an interview at Howard University. I went to DC for that. Seems like I've been to DC one other time. Oh, I went to DC for the Global Summit. Actually, yeah, those were two separate trips.
My next question is based on her opening the door, and therefore I'll just ask it, and Your Honor can decide whether or not it's appropriate. When you went to DC, did you go to the White House?
I did not go to the White House.
No, well,
Apparently, I'm going to get the answer anyhow.
So the judge sustained the objection and she just rambled right on through. She just drove the truck right on through. Did not go to the White House. For a lawyer, she's not really following the procedure or courtroom decorum. Just roll that train right on through that objection and answer it anyway.
there you have it. Next question.
Okay. You indicated your best recollection was that your relationship with Mr. Wade, the romantic relationship, ended, you left it in August of 2023. Does that sound right?
That's the hard conversation. That's not the.
We've covered this. Next question.
And you characterize it as a tough conversation, correct?
Yes.
I'm not going to get into the conversation per
We
se.
should.
Well, if he doesn't want to, we won't go there. So, Mr. State, next question.
You know, it's kind of hard to say no when you've got that opportunity.
Oh, hold on, we're going to rewind that. But for a second, Squeaky Wheel says, the Georgia State Senate has now issued a subpoena for all of the texts between Terrence Bradley and Natalie Merchant. That's really funny because we were calling her Natalie Merchant too, who's an excellent singer that I love from the 10,000 Maniacs. However, I don't know if you intended to say that or not, and you're calling her Natalie Merchant too, but it's Ashley Merchant is her name. So that's kind of funny because I was thinking in the same vein. There are many of them, some very damning for Bradley. Most are from last month. Yes, that is so true. And Colleen says she was at the White House. There are receipts. Let's just take that back. We're going to take this back just a couple of seconds because it's worth listening to again.
Conversation per
We
se.
should. Yes.
I'm not going to get into the conversation per
We
se.
should.
Characterize it as a tough conversation, correct?
Yes.
I'm not going to get into the conversation per
We
se.
should.
Oh, yeah?
Well, if he doesn't want to, we won't go there. So, Mr. State, next question.
You know, it's kind of hard to say no when you've got that opportunity.
Everyone is rolling in the courthouse, in the courtroom. We should. It's kind of hard not to take that opportunity when you're given it.
All I'm going to say is it wasn't pre-indictment in this case.
So,
We know the timeline that the indictment was delivered. Well,
but,
actually,
and so that
I'll
we're
give you
clear,
that.
the physical relationship ended pre-indictment.
And is that when you were talking about the tough conversation?
But I'm not sure that the tough conversation didn't happen until after, but the physical relationship. So I'm sure if you ask Mr. Wade, because he's a male, he would say we ended June or July because physical contact ended then. Just in my mind, being a woman, it's over when you have that like hard conversation. I just think women and men think differently.
And I think the answer, Mr. State, to your question was she's not sure whether it was before or after the indictment.
Well, I'm not sure that was her answer, but let's see if I can get specific.
That is what I said. That's what I said.
I'll let you. Next question, Mr. State. If you need to
Want to say
clarify.
one more? The romantic relationship ended before the indictment was returned, yes or no?
To a man, yes.
To a man, yes. To you, no.
She's explained this, Mr.
Right.
Seda. She's explained this.
And did the forthcoming indictment have anything to do with that? Or was it just a coincidence?
Mr., let's go on and have the conversation.
Oh boy.
I've just asked you whether or not it was a coincidence.
Had absolutely nothing to do with this. It's interesting that we're here about this money. Mr. Wade is used to women that, as he told me one time, the only thing a woman can do for him is make him a sandwich. We would have brutal arguments.
Bam, the only thing a woman can do for him is make him a sandwich. I mean, there's another t-shirt, yeah?
About the fact that I am your equal. I don't need anything from a man. A man is not a plan.
That's my next t-shirt. A man is not a plan. A man is not a plan. You saw that in my thumbnail. If you didn't know where that came from, that's where I pulled it from. A man is not a plan. Ladies, would you agree with me? A man is not a plan. Would you agree with Fanny? Take a load off, Fanny.
Can do for him is make him a sandwich. We would have brutal arguments about the fact that I am your equal. I don't need anything from a man. A man is not a plan. A man is a companion. And so there was tension always in our relationship, which is why I would give him his money back. I don't need anybody to foot my bills. The only man who's ever foot my bills completely is my daddy.
Is there anything else you would like to add to that?
Please.
No,
Sure.
I'm sure we'll talk about it further.
No, we're not going to talk about it further.
All right, no back and forth, Mr. Seda. Next question.
My next question is something that that has to do with what I've characterized as the church speech. Let me just tell you what the question is, because I know that's not
Preserve it for the record.
Huh?
You can preserve the question for the record, but then we'll move on.
That's correct. Thank you. When you gave what I've referred to as the Martin Luther King weekend church speech, you know what I'm referring to.
A great honor of mine. That's a historic African-American church. Yes, I do.
Okay. Did you have handwritten notes with you that you were reading from during the speech?
And on second thought, Mr. Seda, because you might have a number of questions about this, why don't we just bullet point what you would want to cover on this to preserve for the
Yeah, so it's reserved for the record because the judge has already ruled this can't come in. So now that she brought up her daddy, let me watch a little bit of her daddy's testimony because she's just going to continue to, I don't know, lie till you die sort of stuff. And let's go to the chat for a second, shall we? Where are you, my friends? Thank you, Buzzing for the Truth, for being a member for a month. Oh, Melanie, always enjoy your commentary. Thank you. I just thought this should be like a comedy show tonight because we need a little levity. We need some comedy. We need some funny stuff to get us through all of these tough cases that we're handling on other nights. Lady Prudence, thank you for your super sticker. I appreciate you, dear Prudence. Renee, thanks for your super chat. How much do you want to bet that Fanny gets an agent and becomes the next Judge Judy? She is sassy. I'd watch that show. Either that or maybe Real Housewives of Atlanta. You know, like Andy Cohen should be like on the horn, like, hello, Fanny, you want to come on the show? They're having a lot of trouble right now. Big lawsuits being filed against Andy Cohen and that show because of lots of things like sexual harassment and drinking and forcing people to drink and as such things like that. Leslie became a new member. Welcome, Leslie, to my little cupcakes. We like to keep it classy. We like to keep it fun, and we're having a great time here tonight. I hope you guys are having as much fun as I'm having, especially even if you're watching this for more than the first time. If you're watching it for the first time, this testimony, I'm sure that you're finding it entertaining. So let's take a look at Fanny's dad's testimony because that is some good stuff. Now, if you haven't heard of Fanny's dad, his name is John Willis, I believe, and he was a criminal defense lawyer, which explains to me why he also had a lot of cash around the house because many criminal defense lawyers are paid in cash, for those of you who did not know that. So it's not uncommon for a lot of criminal defense lawyers to keep a lot of cash around because they get paid in cash. He also was a founder of one of the chapters of the Black Panthers, and he was a criminal defense attorney in Washington, D.C. I'm going to speed up his testimony just a little bit because I think he's a little bit slower than some of the other witnesses, but let's just start it on regular speed. Then you tell me. Hold on. What you think. I do not even believe that he was subpoenaed. I think he just wanted to come and testify, and boy, does he talk a lot. There's nothing harder than questioning a lawyer on the stand, and you're going to see that. Well, you've already seen it between Wade and Fannie, and this is going to be her dad. He's also a lawyer, and then we're going to look at some of Terrence Bradley's testimony, who is the poor ex-partner of Wade that did not want to be there. He wanted to be anywhere else.
Currently retired,
Yes, I am.
and prior to, are you currently retired?
Yes, I am.
And prior to being retired, can you tell the court a little bit about, did you work in the legal career?
I'm an attorney. I practice law. I've probably tried 1,000 cases. About 50% of my practice was criminal law. 25% of it was family law, and the rest was whatever walked through the front door could pay for it.
Okay. And
Can we wait 1 second? Governor's come back. He might
I
have
do. My calendar shows it's October 26, 2021.
All right, and would defense counsel accept that as a stipulation, or is there any follow-up questioning needed on that? Mr. Barnes is still considered under oath on this point. All right, I'm just look for a show of hands, or if someone to speak now on Zoom, and hearing none. Thank you, sir.
As well.
And
This is gets a little bit comedic when he says that he cannot see the documents. So.
Retired and
what's been stated.
okay, Your Honor, if you don't mind, my eyes are very bad, which is one of the reasons I retired, and so I need a magnifying glass. So I'll be constantly. Thank you.
Oh, come on. Can you see Keenan on SNL with a giant magnifying glass that he just whips out of his Mary Poppins bag to read the documents that he's provided with? Oh my goodness. Can't make this up. You cannot make this up.
Yes, I see it was issued on 9/28/2019.
Okay, so before we get there, do you recognize State Exhibit 2?
Yes, just my driver's license.
And it states Exhibit 2 a fair and accurate copy of your physical driver's license.
Absolutely.
This time around, the state of tender was marked as State Exhibit 2 in evidence.
Seeing no other objections, is submitted. State Exhibit 2 is submitted for the record.
Now, and for the record, Your Honor, the state is going to supplement State Exhibit 2 with a redacted copy of the license. The current copy is not redacted with the address and things of that.
All right, and do we need to mark that differently in any way?
I will mark it as State Exhibit 2A.
Perfect.
Now,
They're going to get into like when his license came in, when he got his license in Georgia, what year it was. Then he's going to talk about how he knew that COVID was coming from South Africa before anybody else did in 2019. I just find that.
Home in Fulton County?
Yes, I stayed there really until 2022, I guess.
And from what you described, did you fear for her safety?
Absolutely. I mean, not only did I do that, I mean, the South Fulton police, they brought somebody, a man with a dog, because there have been so many death threats. And they said they were going to blow up the house. They were going to kill her. They were going to kill me. They were going to kill my grandchildren. I mean,
And that is terrible, really. That is terrible. Nobody should receive death threats like that. And I think this is very, very traumatic and terrible that any of this happened. And she had to move out of her house because of it. And that's terrible. But I think they're going to try and show that she moved out of her house because she didn't want her dad in her business to know about who her boyfriend was and stuff like that. But he does get on to talk about the cash in the house, which was kind of funny. So let's fast forward a little bit to that. But he was definitely definitely knowing that COVID was coming in 2019 because he lived in South Africa. I found that to be a little bit odd, that portion of his testimony.
Good morning, Counsel.
When your daughter moved or left the house that she owned, did she say anything to you about having a large savings of cash?
Oh, no, no. See,
maybe, excuse me, and Your Honor, I'm not trying to be racist, okay? But it's a black thing, okay? You know, I was trained, and most black folks, they hide cash or they keep cash. And
Okay, I'm not trying to be racist, Your Honor, but it's a black thing. I got news for you, Mr. Willis. It's an Italian thing too. It's an Italian thing. Anybody here Italian? Did your parents teach you to hide your cash under the mattress? It's not just a black thing.
I train, you always keep some cash because I've been places, and just because of the color of my skin, for example, I took a fellowship at Harvard when my daughter was just if I might, Your Honor, when I was just, she was just, you know, maybe 3 years old. And I remember going to a restaurant in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I had a American Express credit card and maybe a Visa or whatever. And I had a lot of what they call traveler's checks. I don't even know if they still have traveler's checks, but traveler's checks.
I don't know. Do they still
And
have
there was
traveler's
a
checks?
sign said, you know, with the credit card. For whatever reasons, the man would not take my American Express credit card. So I pulled out my Visa card, and he wouldn't take my Visa card. So then I pulled out my traveler's checks. He said, we don't take checks. Now this was...
So you can just see that this is at 1.5 speed, and he's going to go on for about 40 minutes with a lot of stuff that is extraneous. Nothing's really that relevant other than he doesn't think that they were in a relationship during the time period of 2019. Mercina Lady says it's a Greek thing. The mattress are under the rug. Yeah. Yep. Bond servant. Her house is definitely on the hit list for robbery now. Yeah, I think we might be able to say that. All right. So then we're going to get to the testimony of Terrence Bradley. Terrence Bradley was the former law partner of the lover, Nathan Wade, and they were law partners for quite some time. And in fact, he's going to say on his first day of testimony, he's going to hide behind attorney-client privilege because he's going to say that despite the fact that there was no divorce filed for Nathan Wade until the day after he was, you can't make this up, the day after she appointed him special prosecutor on November 1st of 2021. His wife files for divorce November 2nd, 2021. Terrence Bradley is going to say, but he was talking about getting a divorce since 2017. So everything he talked to me about from 2017 is subject to attorney-client privilege. So I can't talk about anything having to do with his relationship with FANI WILLIS because it's all attorney-client privilege. And so his entire first day on the stand was, I can't answer that, privilege. But the judge held a hearing on this Monday, about the privilege, and he said, yeah, no, we're not going to hide behind privilege. You're going to have to come in and answer some questions. So let's take a look at a clip wherein they're just going to talk about what happened with the motion to block his testimony as being subject to privilege. So you can understand that a little bit better from someone who is not me that can probably explain it better than I can.
6 in the push to disqualify DA FANI WILLIS and Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade from the Fulton County election interference case. So the judge has now denied a motion from Wade to block additional testimony from his former attorney, Terrence Bradley. The defense attorneys believe that Bradley can actually prove Willis and Wade's romantic relationship began earlier than they testified. Bradley is now set to meet with the judge on Monday. And tonight, attorneys from former President Donald Trump claim new cell phone evidence can actually prove the romantic relationship that began in 2021. It actually began before 2021 when Willis appointed Wade to lead the election case. Both Willis and Wade have denied those claims, testifying their relationship did not begin until 2022.
Do you think prior to November 1st of 2021, you were at the condo more than 10 times?
No, sir.
So it'd be less than 10 times?
Yes, sir.
Well, tonight, attorneys say phone records reveal at least 35 occasions when Wade's phone connected to cell phone towers near Willis's condo in Hapeville for extended periods of time. In court, Wade said that any phone record suggesting he was in Hapeville more frequently would be wrong, and that his visits to Willis's condo were for business reasons only. His attorneys did not respond to our request for comment today, nor did Willis's office as well.
It's the cellular forensics that are going to get you every time, folks, and they're going to show he was there between something like 1 and 5 a.m.
As for the cell phone records, the judge will have to decide whether it's credible and admissible before factoring it into his decision.
But you know he's got to. He's got to, right? How could he not? How could he not take that into consideration? That's huge because they knew they had that cellular evidence and they made sure that they got both of them to deny all of these things. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Let's watch some testimony from Law and Crime of poor Mr. Terrence Bradley. I think it was from, wasn't this from yesterday? I'm losing track of days again, you guys. All right, so after the judge ruled on that motion that said Bradley had to come back and testify again, because as if the first day wasn't uncomfortable enough, we don't have time to show you parts of that, but let's take a look at what happened just yesterday.
Judge. Good afternoon, Mr. Bradley.
Good afternoon.
Good to see you. Sorry, under these circumstances. I'm going to just go straight to where we left off before. FANI Willis and Nathan Wade were in a romantic relationship, correct?
Correct.
And it began at the time that they were both municipal court judges, correct?
Objection, Your Honor, based on privilege.
Okay, overruled.
Privilege.
I do not have knowledge of it starting or when it started.
Terrence, you told me that it started when they were both municipal court judges, though, correct?
That is incorrect.
Okay. She's going to impeach him with her text messages because he has been texting with her. He has been texting with the defense attorney about their relationship. And all of a sudden, yesterday, whenever this was, he had a huge case of amnesia and doesn't remember anything about when their relationship started. I don't know if somebody got to him. I don't know if somebody threatened him, but all of a sudden he's going to deny. And this is crazy because he used to be former law partners with Nathan Wade. And he was supposed to be the smoking gun witness. He was cooperating with the defense until he got on the stand. And his text messages are going to sink him because he's going to say, I don't know, I don't recall, until she pulls up the receipts.
You never confirmed in writing that it was instead of magistrate court, it was in municipal court when they started dating?
If you're speaking of the text message, you can go to that text message and you can read that text message and I will explain the text message to you. But you and I did not have a conversation about when it started. You asked a compound question of magistrate court versus, you said it was magistrate court municipal you said magistrate court conference, I'm sorry. And then you asked another question. I said, no, municipal court, nothing else.
I'm referring to a different conversation. I asked you, do you think it started before she hired him?
And I'm going to object. This was covered in the previous hearing where Mr. Bradley said he had no personal knowledge of the exact text that Ms. Merchant is speaking of and actually used in an attempt to refresh his recollection. And he explained exactly what he's explaining here before the court. So this is repetitive and necessary. So I would object to asked and answered and relevance at this point.
All right, perhaps we'll get there, but I think first Ms. Merchant has the right to draw his attention to the exact, potentially inconsistent statement.
Thank you, Judge. May I approach him?
So overruled.
This is
You may.
the text.
Yes, she does, Nosy Rosie.
And for purposes of the record, I believe Ms. Merchant, you tendered, was it the entire text chain as an exhibit?
I only tendered a few of the texts, but I did give the state their courtesy copies last time of the exhibit.
Was this one tendered?
Yes, Nosy Rosie. Megan Kelly has all the texts and she read them and she gets full credit for it. She gets full credit. Some other people tried to take credit for it. She was not happy. She does get all the credit.
This one was not tendered.
All right.
And I'm happy to tender it.
Well, we'll just take it as it comes, whatever you
We're
need.
at, I think we're at 39. I will wait to mark it. But I think we're at 39. May I approach Judge?
You may.
His testimony started a long time before this. This is eventually when he denies everything and doesn't recall everything. Now she's like, okay, don't you remember telling me this? Don't you remember texting with me? And then she whips it out. Now he's got no choice but to admit it, although he's going to try and speculate his way out of it.
All right. So Terrence, do you remember telling me that it started when she left the DA's office and was a judge in South Fulton?
I see the message there, but I don't recall. I do see that message, but I do not recall.
You don't recall texting this?
I look back at my text messages through that we've had. I see that message, but I do not recall that. No, ma'am.
And when I asked you if you thought it started before she hired him, and you responded absolutely.
Your Honor, I'm going to object as to the source of the information that Mr. Bradley allegedly gathered this from. There's been absolutely no foundation, and based on the arguments of the last hearing, that a lot of this is based on gossip, innuendo, assumption, and privileged information. And
Oh, he's throwing it all in there.
has not provided a foundation as to how Mr. Bradley would have any information that she keeps referring to.
All right. I think that's. Go ahead, Ms. Merchant.
I didn't ask him about the source of the information. And under Rule 621, I can impeach him with any inconsistent facts. This is an inconsistent fact. I can impeach him with any contrary facts.
Sure.
This is a
Why would it
contrary
be a relevant impeachment if he actually has no personal knowledge of this?
If he doesn't.
Sure. So I think you have to lay that foundation then, so that'll be sustained.
Oh, more foundation.
Do you remember telling me that it began?
Well, that doesn't address the.
No, I'm not. I was just asking if you remember telling me as opposed to the
Okay,
text.
sure.
Do you remember telling me that it began?
Well, no, and then you're going into the substance of it, which we haven't determined whether he actually knows or how he knows.
You told me.
Trying so hard.
In fact, you corrected me when I said magistrate court. You corrected me and said it was municipal court. Do you remember that?
Same objection, Your Honor.
This is the exact same issue, right?
Well, I'm asking if he remembers that. He hasn't answered that question yet.
Right, but the relevance of whether he remembers it isn't established until we know how he remembers it or why he knows it. If that makes sense. I guess not.
I'm sorry. How he knows it? I'm just asking if he told me that.
Right.
So I wasn't asking how he knew that. I wasn't asking the source of that knowledge. I was asking if he told me that.
This is where it kind of gets into watching a moot court competition for first-year law students. Like she's having a conversation with the judge who's like, help me, judge, help me. How do I ask this question? And it's a little bit, as an experienced attorney, it's a little bit hard to watch. I don't know if if we have any other experienced attorneys in the chat, but it's hard to watch for me.
Sure.
That's it.
But that's the point. It's how he knows it.
Right.
The source of his knowledge, the state would contend, is hearsay because it's gossip and innuendo, which is what was indicated the last hearing.
Well, it may not be hearsay. It may not be gossip. We haven't really gotten there yet. We don't know how he knows what apparently he's telling her. And I think we need to figure that out before we can go any further.
Yes. And if the source of the information is a witness who've testified, then it's not hearsay. So when did the relationship start?
I cannot answer that.
When was your first knowledge of the relationship?
Objection, Your Honor. He's already answered that question multiple times today. He said he has no idea the timeline or when it occurred. That was one of the first questions that Ms. Murphy asked.
I didn't ask when. I asked his first knowledge. He testified he has knowledge that they had a relationship. I asked him when he first got knowledge of that.
Okay. So if the question is, when did you first get knowledge? I think we can start there.
That was the question. Yes.
All right.
Thank you. When did you first get knowledge of their relationship?
Thanks for finally helping me, Your Honor.
I've said over again that I didn't have any personal information where I could personally say when it started. I've said that time and time again. So I don't know when the relationship started.
And that wasn't my question. So my question is, when did you first gain knowledge? I didn't ask the source of the knowledge, didn't ask you to comment on the validity of the knowledge. I asked when you first had knowledge.
We'll get to the how, Mr. Abadi. So I'll note the objection, overrule it. You can answer that.
Just for the record, and I appreciate your honesty, but he said he has no personal knowledge, so it's clear he had to gain the knowledge, not from hearsay.
He could have gained it from
Sure.
Mr. Wade.
Well, I mean, most of us learn things from hearsay. The question of whether it's admissible, right? And that's what we got to get to. So,
I apologize.
When did you first get knowledge? I'm not qualifying what type of knowledge. I'm just asking when you first knew about the relationship.
I don't know how to answer that. I mean, so I can't give you a date if you're asking for a date. If you're asking me, how did I get the knowledge? It would have come directly from my client.
Right.
So help me understand.
I think you say you can't answer that question. You don't know the date. So that's the answer.
Oh, just trying to help him
I said
too.
that 5 minutes ago.
We have to make it clear.
Yes, sir.
Next question, Ms. Merchant.
So you don't know the specific date.
No.
Do you know if can we narrow down the timeline? Did you gain knowledge in 2019 of this relationship beginning?
I'm going to object to this line of questioning as he said he does not know when he gained
All right.
knowledge.
He doesn't know the specific
That's
date.
fine, Ms. Merchant. I think I'm overruling that. I think we can try to see if he can narrow it down based on goalposts.
Ken, is that one of your lines? Is that one of your lines? You and Megyn Kelly are going to get a ticket because you have fine written all over you. I like it. Like, did it hurt when you fell from heaven? That's hilarious.
Thank you.
19, I would probably say no. I mean, I don't have anything that there wasn't a specific date. There wasn't a football game. There wasn't something that I can attribute
Football
to
game.
him telling me whatever. And so you're asking for a date. You're asking for a year. It's still a date. And at this time, I am telling you that I do not have the date.
Let's try this then. So you received a contract from Ms. Willis January 2021, correct?
Can I see the?
Yes,
Yes, I think so.
Exhibits are, I think, okay.
I think if it was from the exhibits, I think it was 21. Yes.
And I don't want to belabor the point. You did this
Yes.
when you were here before.
Yes.
If those documents that you looked at last time,
Yes.
it's at January 2022. That's okay.
21.
I'm sorry, 21. You're right. Thank
And
you.
it was, I think, renewed in 22.
It was, yes. So the contract date was that we have in the record is January 25th, 2022. So using that date, at that point, had they begun their romantic relationship?
Of 2022.
January 25th, 2022. 2021, I'm sorry. When you got your first contract.
I don't recall.
I recall a lot of things.
I don't recall any specific dates.
Oh boy.
No, ma'am.
You remember when you got that contract, is that correct?
I remember I had the contract. Yes.
Okay. And you told us last week, or I guess it was a week before now, you told us that Mr. Wade
Yes, Nathan Wade is staring him down. He's sitting right there at the table, the state's table.
brought you that contract, essentially told you about that contract.
That is correct.
So Ms. Willis is not the one that brought that contract to you directly. It was Mr. Wade.
That is correct.
At that point in time, they were already engaged in a relationship,
I'm
correct?
going to object, Your
I
Honor,
can't say that.
characterization of what Mr. Bradley just said. He just said he does not remember. There's nothing
He
specific.
doesn't remember the exact date. I think the question now is to reference it or tie it to maybe some other event that he might remember.
I agree with Your Honor. She asked that specific question. He said he does not remember any specific dates after signing the contract. That's exactly
Sure.
what he just said. This is
All
asked
right.
and answered.
I know, and we're getting to the end of it. So, Ms. Merchant, you don't have much more to pull on here, but he answered that last question. So what's your next one?
And Judge, I didn't hear the answer if they were in a relationship January 25th,
Mr.
2021.
Bradley, do you recall the question?
I recall the question, and I can't tell you accurately whether or not they were in a relationship at the time. You asked me about him bringing me a contract. I said he did bring me a contract, and that is accurate.
Do you remember knowing Ms. Willis prior to her taking office as the DA?
I had very little contact with Ms. Willis. I knew her through my business of coming down to Fulton, if that's what you're asking. Yes.
You knew her through the business. So you had met her prior to your contract.
I'm going to object to relevance at this point as to why we're here today.
Sure.
Judge, he doesn't remember much of anything right now. And so I'm trying to create a timeline to hopefully piece this together.
He doesn't remember
All right,
much of
well,
anything right now. It's 100% true.
I'm not saying really the likelihood that that's going to have any success. I'll let you ask a few more questions, but if he doesn't have a date, then I don't know that you're going to be able to create one today.
Okay, thank you. So the time that you had this contract from January 2021 until January 2022, did you come in and out of the DA's office?
Yes.
Okay. And so were you able to witness Mr. Wade and Ms. Willis interact during that time?
I'm going to object. This has been asked and answered. It was addressed at the last hearing about Mr. Bradley's access to and from a specific room to pick up files. And Mr. Bradley said that he rarely saw them together.
So painful, but there's only 2 more minutes of this one.
That was closed at the last hearing was his personal knowledge, potentially through. Well, actually, no. If he testified, it was that he had no personal knowledge. It's knowledge that conveyed to him that was cut off at the last hearing. That's really the only thing we hadn't been able to explore, unless you correct me if I'm wrong.
Knowledge that was conveyed to him
by somebody else. That's that he claimed at the time was privilege. I found that it's not. That's what we're here to explore.
Okay.
He did speed it up because it's very slow.
Not many people knew where they met.
I'm going to object as to relevance, as to his personal knowledge, which is what 602 requires.
Yeah, I mean, we're back to the same point, Ms. Merchant.
His personal knowledge is what I'm asking him what he told me.
But he hasn't yet told you how he knows that. And so, unless you can establish why he should be testifying on this at all, then there's no relevance.
And I don't know how he knows that. That would be
Then
the
ask
next.
him.
That would be the next question.
Then ask him how he knows it.
Then ask him.
He said that.
No, you don't. You could go the other way around.
Oh, this is like a.
When you told me that it started when she left the DA's office and was a judge in South Fulton.
Trial practice 101.
Well, I'm going to object because his testimony a few minutes ago is that he did not recall making that statement.
I'll overrule that. Mr. Bradley, answer the question if you can.
Oh, boy.
Repeat the question.
When you told me that their relationship started when she left the DA's office and was a judge in South Fulton, where did you obtain that knowledge from?
I was speculating. I didn't have a.
All of a sudden, he was speculating. To refresh your recollection, she was a judge in South Fulton in 2019, way before he was hired special prosecutor, November 1, 2021. This is the linchpin testimony right here. I was speculating.
No one told me I was speculating.
I do as well.
She's going to
Judge. Good afternoon, Mr. Bradley.
try and impeach him with that testimony by showing him the text messages. He's going to get another case of amnesia. But the best part of this is the cross by Sadow. I can find it. 1 second. Oop. Where he says, "Why would you speculate? Why would you speculate?" And it's very good. So we'll watch a little bit of this and then we'll read the text messages and then we're going to wrap. If you have any questions, get them ready. Sorry, this was a long one tonight, but it is good stuff, in my opinion. Hopefully you think it's good stuff
Happening
too.
tomorrow, the push.
I do as well.
Unfortunately, Sadow's on Zoom.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bradley, you have referred to Mr. Wade as your client, correct?
Correct.
You understand that the court has ruled that communications that you had with Mr. Wade are not privileged, correct?
No, I'm aware that the court ruled that one specific dealing with the time frame of one specific conversation wasn't privileged.
Then I'm going to ask Your Honor, if it's that the limitation, or
to clarify,
email.
Sure, Mr. Sadow, you asked whether all communications with Mr. Wade, I think, were covered. That was not the extent of the ruling. The only ones that I deemed were not covered, and that I'd asked about in the in-camera hearing because those are the ones that were relevant, were any communications Mr. Wade made regarding the existence or non-existence of a romantic relationship with Ms. Willis.
Fine, thank you, Your Honor. I understand. So going back to this line of inquiry, when you say you don't have personal knowledge, what I want to ask you to start with is very simple. Did you have communications with Mr. Wade about the relationship between Mr. Wade and Ms. Willis? It's a simple yes and no.
Yes.
Okay. And is it your testimony that during the time you were representing him, which I understood started sometime in 2018, is that correct?
That's the time frame that I remember, yes.
Is it your testimony under oath that with regards to conversations with Mr. Wade about his relationship with Ms. Willis, that you only had one such conversation during the time you represented Mr. Wade?
One conversation of what? I apologize.
The only thing we're talking
The whole thing we're talking about
The only
here.
thing I'm asking about is that area that the court said is not privileged, which is the relationship between Mr. Wade and Ms. Willis. You've testified that during the time you represented Mr. Wade from 2018 on, that you only had one conversation with him in reference to the relationship between Ms. Willis and Mr. Wade. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's fairly accurate, yes.
Okay, so out of the entire time, I'm talking about could be 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. When did you stop representing Mr. Wade?
It was a few months after I left the firm.
All right, give me the approximate time.
I left maybe June, July of 2022, maybe.
Okay, so that would suggest that for, assuming it's 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, and half of 2022, which is in the vicinity of 4 to 4.5 years, you're testifying under oath you had one conversation about a relationship between Mr. Wade and Ms. Willis. Is that correct?
I don't recall having any other conversation with Mr. Wade about him and Ms. Willis.
Do you believe that? He's his best buddy. He's his law partner. He's representing him in his divorce. Do you believe that he only had one conversation about his relationship with Fanny? What say you? Believe it? Yes. Believe it? No.
Is it your testimony then that you don't remember any other conversation, or there wasn't any other conversation besides the one?
I'm going to object this to ask the answer.
I think he's drilling down. I think it's a fair question overall.
I don't recall. I would say it was the one, but I don't recall.
You testified that you did have communications with Mr. Wade about him visiting with Ms. Willis at a condo or apartment, correct?
I don't think I testified that I had a conversation. I testified that any knowledge that I would have known anything about any condo would have come from that, but I don't recall a conversation about that. I do not recall a conversation about that.
Do you recall any other thing at this point in time under oath that would indicate when the relationship started between Mr. Wade and Ms. Willis?
I do not know when the relationship started between Mr. Wade and Ms. Willis. I cannot recall that. I can't
recall.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to drill down on that now, okay?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Wade was hired as the special prosecutor on November 1st of 2021. You're aware of that, correct?
I have my contracts to show when I started. No one showed me the contract of when he started, but but if he has a contract for November 1st of 2021, then that's correct.
All right. I'm going to suggest to you that the record will reflect that the contract between Ms. Willis and Mr. Wade was November 1st of 2021, correct? I want you just to accept that, okay? Is it your testimony that you don't know under oath whether or not there was a relationship between Mr. Wade and Ms. Willis before the contract?
I do not recall any dates of when the relationship started. So whether you are pinpointing a date of when his contract started or not, I'm telling you, I did not recall any specific date that he flat out said anything about a relationship with Ms. Willis.
Oh boy.
Now I want to go, based on what you've just said, let's go to what was Defense Exhibit 26, okay? In Defense Exhibit 26, which I showed you last time, was 2 pages of text messages between you and Ms. Merchant, correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, the first page starts off by saying, Ms. Merchant, like just date, don't hire him. Do you think it started before she hired him? You see that?
Yes, I see it, yes.
And your response to that was absolutely, correct?
I'm going to object, ask and answer, and cumulative.
All right, so
Ask and answer.
I do think we went through a lot of these texts.
We didn't go through
They
this
didn't
whole
turn off
one.
their phone in the courtroom.
All right. I'm sorry, Mr. State, you said we didn't go through this particular one?
No, we stopped right there. I want to go.
I answered because this is the exact language that she just stated a few minutes ago. You can read it back.
Okay, Mr.
in the
Sadao,
record.
are you saying both of these two exhibits weren't already covered by Ms. Merchant?
It was not gone, this particular language was not gone into. I'm doing it based on the exhibit itself. Well, let's do it this way. I now move into evidence defense exhibit number 26.
All right, and I have to search through my notes, but does anyone recall that one actually been tendered in a minute already?
No, it was only presented to your honor for you to take back into camera ex parte to speak with Mr. Bradley and his counsel.
Okay, Ms. Merchant is indicating that it was admitted.
I thought Mr. Sadao admitted it, but I'm organizing and bringing them back in order. So I think it might be easier.
Wait, is that where the Odang came in? Hang on.
That's what I'm referring to.
All right.
We gotta rewind that a second because the New York Post talked about that. So let me see if we can catch it.
Mr. Sadao, I do think we went through a lot of these texts.
We didn't
Mopping
go
the
through this
sweat.
one.
Just a second, Mr. Sadao. All right. I'm sorry, Mr. Sadao. You said you didn't go through this particular one?
No, we stopped right there. I want to go.
I answered because this is the exact language that she just stated a few minutes ago. You could read it back.
Okay, Mr.
in the
Sadao.
record.
Are you saying both of these two exhibits weren't already covered by Ms. Merchant?
It was not gone, this particular language was not gone into. I'm doing it based on the exhibit itself. Well, let's do it this way. I now move into evidence defense exhibit number 26.
All right, and I have to search through my notes, but does anyone recall that one actually been tendered in a minute already?
No, it was only presented to your honor for you to take back into camera ex parte to speak with Mr. Bradley and his counsel.
Okay, Ms. Merchant is indicating that it was admitted.
I thought Mr. Sadao admitted it, but I'm organizing and bringing them back in order. So I think it might be easier if I just admit the copies.
All right.
That's what I'm referring to.
All right, so defense exhibit 26 and 27 are being tendered.
Actually, only 26 at this time.
There's Gorky.
Okay, defense exhibit 6, any objection from the state?
26.
I'm going to object as it relates to foundation and authentication. It was used to during the last hearing for the purpose
Objection to everything, but then he's going to yell at him for speculating. So let's get to that part.
Told you where he met her.
That's incorrect.
I'm asking you questions, and you are in a situation where you get to give answers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking you, how did you know that?
How did I know when they met?
Somebody told you that, right?
When they met?
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Who told you?
Mr. Wade told me when they met.
So you had more than one conversation about the relationship between Mr. Wade and Ms. Willis because he told you where he met her.
That's
correct?
Incorrect.
It's incorrect.
It's incorrect.
Okay. Let's go back to the exhibit. Why would you speculate that that's when they started the relationship? What would cause you to put that down as speculation?
I don't recall, but why I thought that it started at the time. But I do recall that he only met her, and I testified to that he met her at that conference, which was in 2019.
You knew that Ashley Merchant represented a defendant in this case when you were text messaging with her, correct?
Yes, I did. Yes.
And you knew that the reason she was asking you questions about Mr. Wade was because she was trying to show when the relationship began, correct?
No, that's not 100%
It's not
correct.
the beginning of the text message.
Yes, but what messages were before this message, before she sent that?
I can't answer that question because I don't have them. All I have is what's in front of you.
Yes.
And it said that she says, do you think it started before she hired me? So you knew, as the counsel for a defendant in this case, that Ms. Merchant was asking you specifically about the knowledge that you had regarding the timing of the relationship between Wade and Ms. Willis, correct?
I mean, based on this, yes, I see what was asked.
And in response to that, you answered directly on your own what you now claim to be speculation, right?
Tyler, you can't get me stricken, man. It's funny what you're saying, but you know what I'm saying. There's like 7 dirty words you can't say on YouTube. A lot more than 7, so.
That's correct.
So I ask you one more time before I move to the next part of this. Why would you speculate when she was asking you a direct question about when the relationship started?
I have no answer for that.
Except for the fact that you do in fact know when it started, and you don't want to testify to that in court. That's the best explanation.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the true explanation, because you don't want to admit it in court, correct?
No, I have no direct knowledge of when the relationship started.
I'm not going to go back through that again. Well, if you didn't know, and you were asked specifically as this exhibit shows, maybe you can explain why you wouldn't say, I don't know.
Is that a question? You're asking me a question to answer?
Definite question.
State that again. I apologize.
If you're being asked, as we've just gone through with this text message from Ms. Merchant,
yes,
as the attorney for a co-defendant,
yes,
and she's asking you about the relationship, and she's clearly asking you about the timing, why wouldn't you just have said in response, I don't know when it started?
I don't know why I didn't say I don't know.
Maybe, again, it's because you know what the truth is, and that's why you answered exactly the way you did in Defense Exhibit 26, correct?
No, I can't sit here and tell you that what you just stated was correct.
Right. What you want the court to believe, and you want the rest of us to believe, is that for some unknown reason, upon being asked a direct question about when the relationship started, you decided on your own to simply speculate and put it down in a text message, as opposed to putting down what you actually knew. That's what you want the court to believe, correct?
Yep.
That was a lot. So can you break that down?
Oh, break it down. Give me some more time. Break it down.
Just
to believe that instead of saying nothing, you decided on your own to speculate.
Yes, I speculated. Yes, I've stated that I speculated. Yes, sir.
Right. That's what you want the court to believe, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, now, then when you go to the next page of that, okay, you see it starts, the best that I can see, it starts in South Fulton. Is that what you have in front of you? Second page.
The second page that I have says that's what I figured.
Okay, that may be cut off from the one that I have. I'm looking at my opening line says in South Fulton. Is that on your second page?
No. So if you're going in order of the pages, no, neither page starts with South Fulton.
No, don't get caught up in whether it starts that way. Does the second page have a line in there that it says in South Fulton?
I think this is a good time to break and take a look at the actual text messages that Megyn Kelly uncovered, because she does get full credit for this. And the New York Post published them today, so we can take a look at them ourselves instead of listening to Sadow crucify Terrence Bradley even more than he's already doing, because that was quite fun to watch. I don't know what happened. I don't know why he suddenly decided that he did not want to testify against his friend. I mean, he was giving Ashley Merchant, all of this information willingly. And then all of a sudden, at some point, he decided that he did not want to do that anymore. He didn't want to play ball. And something happened. You can use your own speculation as to that, just like he speculated there. But let's just take a look at the text messages, and then you can tell me what you think about what he meant. He's going to try and say about a lot of things about what he meant. But these are messages that start in January of this year. So this is literally just a little over a month ago, January 24th of 2024. And it's between Ashley Merchant and Terrence Bradley, literally a month ago. She says, this is Ashley in the green, it's Terrence in the white. I'm subpoenaing Chris Campbell and Nathan's office stuff. I fear it would like suspicious if I did not also subpoena you, but I plan on putting Nathan and FANI on the stand, and they only have others under subpoena for backup. I will leave you out, but I think if I don't subpoena you, it would look fishy. What do you want me to do? He says, I'm okay with it. She likes that. It's my hope they do the right thing before then. He says, you are my friend and I trust you. They will not. They are arrogant as F. She thinks she won the other day when she didn't have to be deposed. Ashley says, that wasn't a win. Thompson set them up. Nathan can admit it all on the 31st. And if he doesn't, then Thompson will make FANI sit. He basically gave Nathan a chance to protect her, but if he doesn't tell them all, then FANI will have to sit. This was regarding a deposition that she was supposed to give. Nathan's finances make it look like she owed a lot of money when he began this. And he says, owed to who? Not true. And then they go on about loans. But the part about, here's the part. We got to get to the part about when the relationship began. Let's see. Ashley says, any idea, this was from September 23, any idea who I could get an affidavit from on the affair? He says, no one would freely burn that bridge. And she says, okay, if Chris was asked under oath, would he know? And he says, no. Wow, I figured he would. I didn't expect him to be so careful. And Terrence says he knows, but he won't admit it. I mean, it's just, they are really like texting like friends. It's a little bit odd. Talking about the trips. Last trip was this summer, May or June. He says, this is in January of 2024. No, I didn't know. I was gone by then. Doesn't surprise me. They took many trips to Florida, Texas, and Napa, California. Yep. Again, do you think this is what he was cross-examined on? Do you think it happened before? Do you think it started before she hired him? This is January of 2024. Absolutely. It started when she left the DA's office and was judge in South Fulton. To refresh our recollection, she became the judge in South Fulton in 2019. 2019. Ashley liked that message. And then he said they met at the municipal court conference, the municipal court CLE conference. CLE is continuing legal education. It's certain credits that you have to obtain as a lawyer every year to keep your license. Ashley says, that's what I figured when he was married. Is this accurate? And then she's quoting to him from the motion that she's writing because she actually asks him to review the motion, and he reviews the motion, says it looks good. Upon information and belief, Willis and Wade met while both were serving as magistrate judges and began a romantic relationship at that time. He then says, no, municipal court. She says, thank you. And he says, but you can't put where they met. Not many people know that. And he says, I might be one of only, not even Chris Campbell. So that he says that's when the affair began, 2019. It's all right here in the receipts of the text messages. And there are more of them. If you want to see, you can go watch Megyn Kelly's show. She did a great show on it. Or you can go to the New York Post, today's version, and they have it. To your knowledge, has Nathan ever prosecuted a felony? I can't find a single one. And Terrence says, never in his life has he ever prosecuted a felony. She said, that's what I found too. It's bad. Then he says, send me a rough draft of the motion, which she does. And he's correcting her on what to say. It's okay. Add me to the footnote 15 and say how much I made. He says, yes, add it back. Anything else? Anything else that isn't accurate, she says, on January 6th of 2024. And he says, looks good. Looks good. And it goes on and on and on, my friends. The receipts are there. I think they've got them dead to rights. I think that they've caught them in many instances of perjury. I think this is going to be a really big problem for both of them. I think they could be prosecuted for perjury. I think this case has to be, the motion has to be granted. Fannie and Nathan Wade both have to be disqualified from prosecuting this case against Trump and 18 co-defendants. And no matter which side of the political aisle that you're on, this should really make you mad. This should really make you mad. Ann says, truthfully, I didn't see the text as all that smoking gun. Question is, are these enough to prove Miss Fannie lied on the stand, sufficient for a finding of perjury? I don't know about that. It's a problem. It's a problem. If she hired him when he was her boyfriend as a special prosecutor in this case, that is a huge problem. The appearance of impropriety is enough. That is slam dunk impropriety. No matter which way you cut it, in my opinion, that is slam dunk impropriety, not to mention nepotism and a whole bunch of other things that I won't say on this show because I try and keep it classy. But 100%, it's a huge problem. They could be disbarred. They could be prosecuted for perjury. They could definitely lose their jobs. There's a lot of problems here, you guys, and that's the way I see it. And that's the way I'm calling it. So I'm going to go to the chat for a minute before we wrap because this was fun tonight. It was good to talk about something that did not involve children being, children's lives being taken and put in duffel bags and made into pieces and all of those horrible things that happened in the Adam Montgomery case and the horrible abuse that we witnessed in the Shonda Vander Ark case and all of these other cases that we're covering that are just so draining. Thanks, Leslie, for becoming a member. I appreciate you. Thanks, Buzzing for the Truth, for being a member and enjoying my commentary. And Patricia Siebold, you're always out there with the excellent comments in the videos. Just me. Do you think any lawyer could do a great job with these witnesses and judge? It's like walking through a minefield, in my opinion. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard controlling them, but I think the judge should have helped a little more, in my opinion. And I think Sadow was the one who did the best job with them, in my opinion. Nosy Rosie, is drilling down a legal term? If so, what does it mean? It's not really a legal term. It just means getting more specific. I'm going to get more specific with this. I'm really going to kind of lock you into your answer and get more specific. Make my point. Drilling down. Thank you for a great night, Laura Liz, and for all of you. We did need it. We needed to talk about something funny tonight, and I'm so glad that you came here. And Ann Vroom, I'm just going to take this. Thing is, the boyfriend thing only mattered if they could also prove a kickback from Wade to Fannie. The kind of didn't prove. No, Ann. I hate to correct you, but I'm going to correct you. The appearance of impropriety is what matters here. It doesn't matter if there was a kickback. It doesn't matter. You don't hire your boyfriend as special prosecutor, pay him $654,000 when he's clearly not qualified to prosecute this very, very, very important case against former President Trump and 19 co-defendants. There is in any book that you read, any book, there is no way that this should have happened. Doesn't matter if there were kickbacks. None of that matters. It's the appearance of impropriety, and the judge is going to have to do something about it. And there's just no way, I think, on all of these, on the testimony, on the text messages, and on the cellular forensic data, they can prove that they lied. It's a really, really, really big problem. So there. That's it. I'm saying it. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. Thank you to my moderators who are so amazing for keeping the chat classy and for always being there to protect me. I appreciate you. So this was a fun one. Thank you. Black Rose is here. Patronus Glow is here. Peter and Rochelle Pranzo were here. Scott Messerschmidt and Scott, 25 years on the job. I don't know who else is here right now, but I know a lot of you were here tonight. My favorite moderators to all my channel members, viewers, replay viewers, thank you. Just smash the like button on your way out. Put your DNA on the like button, and let's see what happens in this tomorrow. This is going to be interesting with these closing arguments, and we'll hope the judge does the right thing. But I think it's problems for everyone, and no matter which side of the political aisle you are on, you should be angry that this is allowed to happen. And these people never think they're going to get caught. Big problems for sure. So remember, my friends, whatever you do out there, be cool, be kind, be classy. It's not hard, really. It is so not hard. Peace out. Have a great night.